Debbie Does Dallas.
Debbie does. One day that will be on here. But I got Captain Ron here.
Welcome to America's Hottest Talk Line. Guys, hot ladies are waiting to talk to you.
Vinegar Syndrome! Guys!
It's on Netflix if you want to watch it.
It's a new one, and that's Air Force One.
Get off my plane. I think Sony paid you a bunch of money to talk about all their steelbooks tonight.
Super special for the stuff, but you know,
are we seriously going to have to talk about the screen movies again?
If you only see one movie this year, it should be Frankenhooker, Bill Murray, Ghostbusters, Caddyshack, Zombieland.
This is a movie I didn't think I'd like as much as I did, and I know it was like really popular because it like won some Oscars and whatever, but
Debbie Does Dallas.
We're actually showing something is they actually produced crew jackets. Like the movie never went into production, but it's got a Delta Force 2 emotional.
Hey, that works either way.
That's cool.
Is anyone even there still? I don't even know.
Yeah, we're just listening to
it.
Okay.
I was like, no one's saying it. Like, really into the story.
Bye, runner.
You too, buddy.
And he's out just like that. Mike dropped it, and he's gone. Hello, fellow followers. Welcome back to the Physical Media Show here on FanZcene Vids, that is. Glad to have you all with us this evening. This is the Halloween Hangover episode because we just so happen to go the day after Halloween. So we'll have a little bit of a Halloween hangover for you guys. But with me tonight is the Rookie Critic and Dracu Tom, still out there, still sucking blood. But how you doing, Rook?
I'm drunk on Halloween movies, of course.
Oh,
it was pretty good. Pretty good.
I forgot to take off my makeup. Jeez, oh peas.
I know, man.
Oh, I thought you looked like normal Wednesday. That's all good.
Jeez, there we go.
I'm gonna miss Dracu Tom. I like Dracu Tom.
I'll dust him off next year.
Yeah. I'll liken my guy off too. Oh wait, that sounded wrong. That sounded so wrong.
Hello.
How are ya? But anyways, let's say hi to the chat. We got Random Brad. He says, here but not here. I'll catch the live. Have a great one. Well, thank you, buddy. And it said from Joey, we have Dead or Undead. We're back being the living dead. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. Welcome. And what is up, Brian Barty? He says, I ate too much candy. I see candy corn. The great debate. Is it good or is it not?
It's always been one of those things that I never want to try. I'm like, I don't want to put that in my mouth. I'm good.
You almost have to try it once just to see if you're one of those psychotic fucks.
I'm picky in general, so that just kind of goes as one of those ones I don't even know.
Nobody that just went over everybody's head when I said
I got it, but I just skipped over it.
You may be like, oh, I actually like this weird shit.
I got it, and then I jumped over.
That tastes good.
Indeedly. We have style section. What's up? It says hungover and loving it, and then we have
hungover.
Yeah. Dan Blackroyd, it begins, and Hell Anthony Draven, Howdy Doba Fett, Tyrell 72, what is up? Rusty Shackelford, glad to have you here this evening or night, whatever time it may be for you guys. Let's see who we got. We got Dalton B, cheers to you. Ace Hanlon found Halloween 4 on DVD at Goodwill today. All right, good score. Nice. Cool Gamer, what is up? Me too, Rusty. I'm sad Halloween is over. I am. I really love a good Halloween. I had a good one. But we got Turkey Day coming up soon. So despite what the stores and everywhere have you think, Thanksgiving is before Christmas.
Regardless of what holiday it is, starting on Halloween is the start of the fattening seasons. That's what I call it.
The fattening has begun.
Yeah, it starts with candy, and then you get your course of some turkey and stuff, and chicken and whatever, and then whatever y'all eat on Christmas. There you go. And then the New Year's cap off of and then all right, time to try to lose all the holiday weight. All right, no, maybe next year.
That's true. That's true. What's up, Corleone Rogue? He said he missed last week's live because he was very ill, so he was asleep, but caught up. Well, I hope you feel better this week, bud. I'm glad to see you out in the chat tonight. It all sounds horrible. Candy corn doesn't seem like it should be consumed.
Thank you.
What's up, Crime? He says the pumpkin has a restraining order to the Christmas tree as it eats a turkey leg. I like that. But welcome back to the show tonight. I'm glad to have you guys here with us and talk some physical media and stuff. Let's see, what do we have here? I know we talked about it last week and everybody was saying it was Excalibur, but Arrow played us good. It looks like we are getting Conan 1 and 2 on 4K from Arrow, limited edition. They got a nice Conan Chronicles set too. That looks pretty cool.
When they say limit, does that mean that they're only making a certain amount, or it's only available for a certain amount of time?
They're only making a certain amount of them.
I think I earned this.
I fucking knew it.
Yep.
Oh.
You did. I mean, I think we all sort of like was guessing that it was Conan, but then like people started saying, "Oh no, that's Excalibur." Then Tom's like, "That's not even a real
you
picture
stuck to
of a
your
sword."
guns. You were confident about it. You were live when talking about it.
I know he's checking it out. He's
There you
like, "This isn't even a stock footage. This isn't even a real picture of the Excalibur." So Tom got that, nailed it. He knew it right off the bat.
Mostly because we reported it a year ago now.
Yeah, like we all like on 4K for you like a year ago, I believe.
Yep.
You and was it Robert or was it
Andre was there that day?
Yeah. He was like,
but yeah, very welcome surprise. And then we also got word that Mimic is coming from Kino Lorber.
mm-hmm.
You brought up. I'll let you take back over again. I'm sorry.
No, go, if you got any more, I don't know.
I got a couple here. I got that one. Love Actually will be coming on the 21st November for those people who care about that crap.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. What else was there?
Carrie on 4K from Arrow.
Gone with the Wind is supposed to be coming in 2024 in 4K. That's a rumor. Same thing with The Crow.
Oh, I deserve it. Effing knew it too, because it looks like we rumored at the moment Trick or Treat that I brought on.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Coming to 4K supposedly.
Yeah, the newer one, the other one, not
the other one, not the Sammy Kerr one.
Some bad news, and I watched this last night in digital mainly because I found out that they're not. I was going to wait for the 4K Blu-ray, but they have the first two on 4K Blu-ray. But evidently, they're not releasing A Haunting in Vegas, Kenneth Branagh's third Hercules Poirot, or how do you say it? Poirot. Yeah,
Poirot.
The detective. Agatha Christie
funny
movie.
mustache.
And I really liked this one. They did a poor job of advertising this one. If you remember, I thought the first one was okay. Second one was a bit of a letdown. This one is the best of the bunch so far.
Really?
And they did a horrible job advertising it. I recommend checking it out, but unfortunately, for some dumb reason, it's only getting a standard Blu-ray release instead of a 4K. It was shot in 4K. Now, first two were shot in film. I think we talked about that when I brought them on here.
Mm-hmm.
But they brought the cost down on this one by shooting it in 6K. But it was mastered in 4K. So I'm confused as to why Disney is not releasing a 4K Blu-ray of it, but we're getting one for Indiana Jones.
It's weird.
And I think this movie may have made more money than Indiana Jones.
It probably did.
It didn't open great, but it did well because they kept it in theaters, probably because that was a rule or something from Kenneth Branagh. But yeah.
Yeah, and you said he shoots on film and everything, so yeah, it should be.
This is the first time he shot on digital, to my knowledge.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yep.
Now he's probably regretting it. And did he like, yeah, you go ahead, shoot digital.
It looks beautiful. I mean, I'll give him that. I mean, it looks really good, but yeah. And then we're getting Leaving Las Vegas in another version from Turbine Media coming up. They look nice, 4 different covers. Turbine always does an amazing job over there. The Babysitter's coming out. Let's see here. What else?
Which one's the babysitter? What's
The one with Alicia Silverstone, I believe.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Is that who it is, or who's in it?
I think so. I think that's who that is that the one? No, that's
no, it's the 2017 one. Never mind.
Oh,
So it can't be her. Samara Weaving is in it.
Oh, that's the horror movie that's on Netflix.
Yeah. Okay. Then we get the whole Leave It to Beaver complete collection and 6 seasons on Blu-ray. Was there anything I missed? I think that was pretty much everything since last week.
Gunfight at OK Corral is coming out in 4K from Kino.
Yeah. I think we brought that up before, but maybe I missed.
Maybe. Did you get what was it? I just saw it from Kino. I don't know if it was new or if we talked about it before, but it's an older movie. It's a Boris Karloff like hosted sort of. What's it called? I had it and it just like slipped my mind. I hate when that happens. Like one of the most famous old like anthologies. It's right on the tip of my tongue, and I missed it. It's just not come to me all of a sudden.
Oh yeah, Kino's putting it out.
Yeah, did we talk about that one?
I don't remember if we did or not.
Black Sabbath. Why couldn't I remember Black Sabbath?
Black Sabbath has had a release on standard Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Paint Your Wagon was another one we missed, and I think the one you were thinking of was The House of Long Shadows.
Maybe. Yeah.
It's coming from Kino, unless maybe Black Sabbath is getting re-released. They've already had like 2 of those from Kino, so I've got both of them. So we don't really need another one, but
it looks like I think I could have sworn I saw they were doing something with it.
I didn't see here, but they might have been. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
That's all I got.
Yeah, I think that's No, it's not getting a new one. It's already been released. That's right. Okay. But yeah, I think that's it. That is it. What is up, Tom? This is other Tom. Tom's
I'm right here.
I always forget to say his last name right. Seymour. He's the director of the VHS Massacre movies. What's up, man? Seymour. Thomas Edward Seymour. What's up, man?
I know you. You're the plague guy.
But yeah, there you guys go. That's what's coming out for physical media releases. If there's anything in there you want to see, check them out. But let's get to our Halloween hangover.
Hold on. I got one funny thing that you guys that happened to me the day before Halloween or whatever. So I got an Uber ride home from work, and the Uber driver was like wearing a Michael Myers mask and uniform and costume and whatever. It was funny because like I get in and I just see his face and just start trying to buckle and whatever. And he's like just looking back at me. Like he's just like staring back at me. And I was like, it took me, it was like, I think I'm processing. I'm like, this guy has a weird face. Oh, he's wearing a mask. Oh, it's a Michael Myers mask. Oh, Halloween. It's a silent character. He's probably just wanting to buckle my seat and then we're good. And he after a few seconds, he was like, dang it. this costume sucks. Doesn't it? I was just like, dude, what? And he's like, nobody's reacting to my costume. I was just like, I just going through the process. I'm like, it's Halloween. He's Michael Myers, and he doesn't talk. And he's just doing that. I don't know. Like that was my thing. But he was like crushed. He was like, how do I do Halloween? I was trying to be fun, and no,
it sounds like a sitcom scene.
I was just
like some out of Seinfeld or something.
I guess I was just like,
no, you're very scary. You're very scary.
Yeah. I was like, he said he had some girls before. He picked me up, and they didn't. They're just
heavy breathing or anything like that.
Yeah, he didn't even know. He was just quiet, and I was like, that if he did like some grunts or breath sounds, I would have definitely been like, that's weird. Okay, whatever. But like the girls were just like, "Are you Chris? Are you Chris?" And I was like, he was like, nobody's scared, nobody jumped, nobody was like, or nothing. And so he was like all disappointed. I'm like, if you put maybe blood on it, that could at least get like a the heck reaction at best. But he picked up like I don't think that most people like in my generation or a little bit younger, they might not even know who Michael Myers is. Like just some of them. I'm just saying.
The problem with that is like if you go on, like there's always videos that you see floating around where somebody's sitting in their car dressed like Michael Myers, just like staring at people at a drive-through, or
I feel like it's done to death.
It's done to death.
It's
and
like,
so like
if it was like a leprechaun face or like just a more creepy face in general, like mask or something, I might have had just like a more quick, whoa, what the fuck? Like reaction. But I like crushed him, and I was trying to go, no, put blood on it, crack it, or like do something else to it, because just the plain face just ain't gonna do it, man. Like
now we know
not gonna.
Rookie
No.
is the Halloween Scrooge. So
Yeah, I felt I was trying to give support to the guy. I'm like, no, keep doing it. No, he was like, yeah, my kid's going as Batman, and I'm just the stupid Michael Myers. I was like, no,
it happens to every guy once in a while. It really does sound like a sitcom situation. It's okay, Kramer. It happens every once in a while.
I felt so bad. Yeah, he killed his Halloween.
Thanks, buddy.
Yep. I don't know if you guys had anything funny happen on or right before Halloween, but that's that'd be fun to share.
No, I just took the kid, walked the kids around. I saw a bunch of Ghostface. I saw Freddy Krueger. I saw a couple Michael Myers. Nothing scandalous like that. Just people walking in their costumes.
I gotcha.
So, nothing exciting.
Right.
All right. But with all that being said, great Halloween hangover story. I like it. Tom, let's go ahead and start with you first. Let's get your first pick out of the way for the night.
All right. Well, one of the movies I tried watching for Halloween was Oddball. Never seen this before. It's Francis Ford Coppola's first film. It's called Dementia 13. And it's billed as the director's cut, even though the only thing I know that's different of this from the other version is that there's this scene with a doctor who comes out and gives you this test of whether or not you're crazy.
Mm-hmm.
By doing what? Like he's got like questions or just
it's really kind of dumb. It's really kind of dumb. It's like, have you ever thought of hurting someone because they hurt you? If the answer is yes, then you're not crazy. You know, it's like
it sounds like the questions in South Park where they're like trying to see if they're like Scientology or whatever. The Scientology test.
But anyway, so that's not even on the movie anymore. Anyway, but you can definitely tell that between Francis and whoever wrote this business was very turned on by Psycho. Like they were really ripping off Psycho, but not in a visual way. But they're trying to. But you have somebody like Francis Ford Coppola, who is a good filmmaker, who can try to do something original with the similar kind of how do I put it? It's not exactly the same kind of story, but you have similar characters, similar situations-ish, and really playing with the idea of going crazy and what it means to be psycho and all that kind of business. Because you have like a character who's a lot like Marion or whatever, where she's not a likable lead. She's actually a horrible person. Because the movie starts out like her and her husband go out on this boat, and he's like, I know you're trying to kill me, or you just want me to die so you can inherit my money, and and all this other stuff. And he ends up having a heart attack right there on the boat, which fucks up all her plans. Because that's what she wants. She just wants the money. So then she moves in with the mom. And so everybody kind of knows that she's just this gold digger, but she's setting up this whole thing. And this little girl that they had, the younger sister in the family, had died a few years back. And the whole story is predicated around this little sister. So you got to think of the little sister as basically the mom character in this compared to Psycho, because you have the bad lead lady who's not a good person, right? Like doing something bad. And of course she died. She's one of the first people to die in the movie. And it's basically this whodunit mystery until the end. And really, it's not a good movie. It's not a bad movie. It's like one of those movies where you watch it and you're like, I can see the potential of Francis Coppola in this movie. It's a very competently made cheap movie, because it's actually a Roger Corman movie produced. And it's like, okay, so you can see it, and it's made just a couple years after Psycho. So, I mean, don't let the cover fool you. It's very much a early 1960s movie, black and white, all that business. But I mean, it looks good. Production value is good. I mean, Coppola put together a decent enough, followable for the most part story. There's some bits that are a little kind of confusing. The two leading ladies look and sound a lot alike, so that causes some confusion at first. So, because once you get to the story where there's this whole family, they're like staying in this big mansion together, and they're kind of weird. You know what I mean? So like, and they're all they have this ceremony every year for the daughter and all this other stuff. And that's where it leads in, where she's like starting to try and make the mom believe the daughter's haunting the house and shit like that. It's kind of a trippy but not very well done story, but it's like if it had another pass or two maybe on the script. Like I said, you could tell it's very influenced by Psycho. The music's good, but again, everything feels like, oh, I can tell you were influenced by Psycho, but you were trying not to rip it off. And you're trying not to make the same story. It's one of those. It's competent enough to where they didn't just go, well, we're just going to do that again. You know what I mean? Like you can tell
Yeah.
this would be like the Friday the 13th to Psycho's Halloween. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it. It's like, hey, that was a good movie. Let's try something like that. So that's what we want to do.
Very competently made, not horrible, but you can definitely tell where they got their inspiration.
Right. I get it. I don't think I've ever seen it. So
does it kind of seem like they were maybe holding back by trying to not be too much like Psycho or something?
Sort of. It's like I said, you got somebody who's competent and smart like Coppola, who's like, last thing we need to do is be called a Psycho clone. Right. So he's doing everything he can to try and make his own thing, but you can tell like Roger Corman was probably like, I want a fucking Psycho ripoff, Francis. Like,
right.
Like, I know what you're making here, but it's not what I want. Because he's trying to make like this very psychological thriller kind of thing. Because clearly, whoever the killer is, it ties back to the death of the sister / daughter, whatever, little girl. So it's all kind of like this very. If there's somebody in the chat who has seen it, they understand what I'm saying. Where it's not your typical movie, but you can tell it's like way ahead of the curve for the time period. Does that make sense? This feels like something that should have come out in the 70s. Like this is a very De Palma-esque kind of story. Somebody trying to be Hitchcock, basically, but not.
How long after Psycho was it? How long after Psycho was it?
3 years. Like that's what I'm saying. This is like this movie is like when Friday the 13th came out after Halloween. You know what I mean? It's totally a different kind of movie, but you can tell that Halloween is the reason Friday the 13th exists.
Do you know how long it took for them to make the film?
I think it was shot only in a couple days. That was another thing because Corman did not like. I think if I remember right from the making, it only took like a week or two to shoot, like maybe 9 days.
They get all their footage that quick. Damn.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Roger Corman don't fuck around.
Yeah, Roger Corman's king, baby.
And he'll shoot like 3 movies on the same set at the same time, shit like that.
Yep. I'm trying to picture the set at the time and how long it took. Was there like an average time it took for some films to be made around that time period? That was average around the board.
Well, up until more recent years with like these superhero movies and movies like Jaws and stuff like that, outside of the rare occurrence, most movies would generally only shoot for 30 to 60 days tops.
Yeah.
Generally the sweet spot was at 45 to 60 days if for a bigger film, but like most comedies, dramas, stuff like that, you could shoot them in under a month sometimes.
No,
especially back then when they were more efficient. Like they would be running this stuff like, I mean, we talk about the conveyor belt of Hollywood now. It literally was a conveyor belt back in the day when they actually owned all the, actors and crews and all that stuff. Cause they were literally just working like 12-hour days, cranking out product. Like they would shoot,
right.
They shot, for instance, King Kong, they shot during the day. And then at night they'd bring back the same actors on the same sets and shoot a totally different movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they put more work into pre-production and post-production, do you think? At least for this film.
Nowadays.
For that
post-production, probably not so much, but definitely in the in the pre-production thing, it wasn't just so much as the thing that takes a lot, like I'm sure a lot of it then was you just went into production as soon as they greenlit something compared to now where you got to find the funding, then you got to hire everybody, then you got to set the dates and you got to do all that business. Back then they're like, oh, you want to make this movie? Okay, let's do it. Like you just put it in your rotation of things you had to do.
Well, I guess I assume that they wrote the story before they started filming.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like that process is pretty much the same, but they actually had studio writers, right? And a lot of times you just have producers say, well, I got so and so, and they need a picture for Christmas. What can you give me? Like that's what they would do. Is like, oh, I got Cary Grant, and I can give you what's her face. Well, that's perfect. Like.
Well, it's kind of funny just hearing you talk about this now makes me think about what their post-production might have been like too, because nowadays there's so much like, oh, we could just CGI or we
literally had like an office of chicks and dudes just like because the chicks had smaller fingers so they could do the cutting.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Cut the film and stuff.
like to physically cut the film and then Otherwise, you just had like 4 or 5 or whatever, however many guys that would edit everything. You know, up and coming guys, they would edit all the shorts and stuff like that, and whatnot. But like, that's just how they cut their teeth or whatever. And it was just like a continual. It wasn't a good way to work for, like, I'm sure the actors and the creatives, but for the crews and certain people like that, it was probably a great time for them because they were constantly working. They didn't have to worry where their next job was coming from. You worked for a studio, so I'm sure you had whatever they had the equivalent for benefits back then. I'm sure they didn't have like insurances and stuff like that yet, but you know what I mean? Like perks and whatnot. I mean, I'm sure back then
crewmen that know what they're doing, that can work well together, that can work on the fly, that can work long hours.
That's just it. Once you worked, in the industry, you could basically work your way up to the point where, eventually by the time you're retirement age, you're probably way up in the studio directing or producing at that point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Do you see?
Francis Ford Coppola was real young when he made this, but yeah.
Yeah. Did you see Roger Corman's closet pics on the Criterion?
I did not yet, but I did see he did one. I haven't got a chance to check it out.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It's pretty. I think he mentions Dimension 13 in it, but he does. It's not
Dementia 13, a movie I produced in 1963.
He does good. I think he might mention it when he's talking about Raging Bull, because he goes through a story about how circles to it somehow. I don't know.
That's Scorsese, but yeah.
Yeah, Scorsese. But I think he goes back. He's like, I saw this director when I was working on this project, and then I, it's good. But yeah, I have to say that
I recommend it, but I think you can get it pretty cheap from Vestron Collector.
Yeah, I think it's only like $12 for Vestron. I was about to say, you think I should pick it up? Because that's one of the few Vestrons I don't have.
It's just kind of like a weird kind of side piece to Psycho, maybe, but it's not a good enough movie that I plan on picking it up and watching it again anytime soon. And I had to rewatch the ending twice because I felt like I was lost somewhere, like I missed something. And it's just, that's where the movie kind of starts to fall to pieces a bit. It's just in the mystery aspect of it all. You kind of have an idea who it is from the beginning. And it's like, yeah, I was right. Okay.
Very good, very good.
Are you just going to say something there?
No, that was it. It was just like, yep, I was right. All right, moving on. Next one.
I knew it. All right, what do you got for us, Rook?
All right. You guys are gonna kill me on this one. So I finally saw Gremlins.
You're going to get ripped into pretty hard on this because
why would I be upset with you finally watching one of the greatest film series of all time?
You're not going to like the opinion.
I don't really see how that is the case. The only thing I laughed at was when the lady got flung out of her house.
That's
by the chair.
First movie's technically not a comedy. I mean, it is, but it isn't.
Like, if it's supposed to be horror, I don't really.
It's a Joe Dante movie. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I love Joe
that
Dante.
doesn't mean
the second one is
me.
flat out supposed to be a comedy. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, as far as like this probably came out a couple years after Alien, I assume.
84.
I mean, they try to have a little bit of that element. I mean, just little Furby things. And then they just turn into these little things. It's
Furby
copies. And they just no. They're not interesting. They're just like, we're wearing sunglasses and we're smoking a cigar and we're fucking around for the movie. And
what is wrong with this child?
The tone.
That's
is
what I
like,
said. I saw him tweet this out, and I was like, "Oh, he's gonna get ripped."
The tone is just goofy, and it's like, okay, but it's not scary or funny. So I'm just kind of like,
what?
This is boring and lame. Like, if it was an advancement of puppetry of the time, then congratulations on the technical aspects. But like, I just don't see how this is so hyped as a film. Like, it's just there's not much there. Can you explain? Can you guys start to educate me on this?
Already. That was a part of it with special effects. But
that's a neat achievement. But as far as the film, like quality of story or characters or anything. No,
the rules,
no
right?
Idea why.
You know the rules. Keep them out of the light. Like that is one thing that permeated the culture. The fact that you probably knew who Gizmo was before you saw this movie, I'm willing to bet. Right? Like he was
no idea. No.
You're well. Then you live under a fucking rock, sir.
That is like surprises me.
Like, I
Nobody
can't,
in
like,
my life, no person
I
in
do
my
not
life,
understand that.
no person in my life ever talked about Gremlins, ever. Nobody. It was a non-movie in my sector. It was a nothing movie. I watch it now with things that I even know,
This
and
is in,
I'm
like,
just
the
like,
top 5 films of 1984, man. It opened up against Ghostbusters and still managed to hold its own.
I think I'd prefer Ghostbusters over
Oh,
this.
man.
I just
So
I
I'm
mean,
sorry. So what?
I can't fault you on the last thing, but
So it's like there's one scene in it that I think would have been great in like a movie that was like better, with the girl talking about her dad dying in the chimney. But it's
that
like,
is the
what was-
movie.
what does that have to do with anything? What does that
It
do with
does.
anything?
It does. It has everything to do with everything. That is the movie in a nutshell. Her story
What?
is the town now getting one of those stories.
exactly.
The whole
It's-
movie is kind of this whole thing about, you got to remember, okay, in the 80s, it was all about consumerism. Gizmo and the Gremlins represent the ultimate consumerism toy, right? Like, Gizmo turns into the present that consumes the person
All
who's
right, so
got
let me already go
You know,
cut in
like-
there. The father was getting his like adult son a toy or like a pet when he already has
His
a
son
dog.
wasn't an adult. He was in high school.
When he says, "Oh, I
That's
need to
the
get
fault of the film. I will give Rook
when he
this. You have a
sees- when he-
problem.
when he sees the little Gizmo and says, "I need to get my son this," I'm picturing 6-year-old kid or something that has never
Okay,
had a pet
To be
before.
fair, and this
Like-
is not Rookie's fault. The original script, Billy was meant to be like Corey Feldman's age,
That
right?
would have
Like,
probably helped.
that's why they're friends.
yeah.
Okay,
That would have made more
happened
sense if it was
was
a younger kid.
and this is what I think happened was they ended up getting Phoebe Cates as the girlfriend. So they're like, well, now we have to cast it up, because at that time you got to remember how big Phoebe Cates was. She was huge. So they're like, okay, then that's when I think at that moment in time they decided we're going to make Billy like this 17-year-old. But he kind of lives in this world of fantasy, right? And a lot of those elements got pushed out of the story. Look, I'm not going to make excuses for the film. I think the film is brilliant. I think it's perfect. Even with the silly rules, it makes them believable in its own way and in the world. I think the Gremlins represent the ultimate, like, they're not about so much killing, but it's just the human nature of craziness of consumerism and just the way we were in the 80s. I think it really reflects on humans at that time a lot. And that story about the father is kind of the movie in a nutshell, right? Like, that's kind of what Dante was going for with the movie. Is this is a wonderful life, but through the lens of a complete psycho, basically.
Like, I feel like if the rest of the movie had a few more scenes that matched that tone, I think that might have fell through
There
better
was
as a
some
whole,
stuff-
because it just wasn't. That was like just one isolated moment that I was like, well, that's good. And now here's all this other stuff that's just unrelated to that. Is what that felt like. Take it from somebody who doesn't know, who didn't grow up with the experience of the 80s, and like, how much knowledge do I have to know about the time period to enjoy the film?
This
Like,
is where I'm afraid of that. I don't feel like you
watch
should.
Alien, because I could watch Alien and not know all the specifics about it and still have a lot that I can give it a lot of props for.
I feel like
I guess
knowing
to me, I get where you're coming from, and that's fair because this is your perspective, and I can't argue with that. And it shouldn't even matter. You're right. Like, you shouldn't have to know anything about the perspective of the time period or anything like that.
Yeah.
To me, this movie feels like it ages like a Disney film. So for me to hear you say these things, are not only just a shot to my heart.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. And it's
having a lot
not
of
your
patience.
fault, I guess, at the end of the day. I mean, wow.
Well, it's because I'm looking at it also, like, the dad is like an inventor with wacky, crazy stuff, and that stuff had like nothing to do with anything toward the end or whatever. It was just like, well, that's like a quirk he has. It's like the Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves dad and his inventions, but his
that may be more of a social
comment,
or not social commentary, but just a thing of you being younger, and they don't teach enough like fantasy elements in school anymore with any of their literature, because
they don't
Gremlins, the whole point of having an inventor like that who has tinkering around with gizmos is that Gremlins, the whole point of them is they're known to get into machines and fuck them up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's where the whole idea of a gremlin comes from. And that's where what Futterman explains, the guy in the plow, when they're sitting outside the bar, that's the way people have viewed gremlins in American culture for the last, at that point, 50 some years. Right? Because that was what they used to do in World War II, is if something went wrong and they couldn't explain it, gremlins got into it.
Yeah, to me, Gremlins, I think, and like whatever I've learned, is kind of mixed with Goblin, but none of them are like specific to anything. There's just all these references to stuff, but there's no, as far as I learned it, there's no like origin to the history. It's just like, oh, here's these weird, freaky looking things that are in stories.
That's the American culture history of Gremlins right there. Otherwise, they've kind of combined it with a little bit of this mystery of folklore of like, the whole Chinese Mogwai, meaning devil, little devil in Chinese, basically. Right. So like, the whole spirit creatures, and that's why they're kind of dragon-like. Yeah. Like there's all that element kind of brought into them, but also the idea that they can't come out during the day, and all that kind of stuff, and that's the thing is, and like I said, in our American folklore at that point, the gremlin had been associated with anything getting into the mechanics. The Twilight Zone really helped with that. You're right. With the whole, there's something on the plane.
On the plane.
And I have seen some Twilight Zone, so I haven't seen all of Twilight Zone.
There's something on the wing.
They
do one of the most famous episodes ever with William Shatner. Yeah. Check that one out if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I've seen the plane one, yeah.
And that's where a lot of people remember Gremlins, that and the Looney Tunes.
Yeah, but it's like, I guess that was the thing for me, because like when it's just going, I just feel like there's just so many scenes of like they're in the bar and they're just screwing around. I was just kind of going like, okay, so like what am, like if I'm not like, what am I supposed to get out of this? I'm just like, are they like dangerous? Are they just screwing around? Do they?
Well, they're keeping.
I don't know. I was just like, I didn't even know what they want us to feel as an audience member. I'm just kind of like, is this funny? Am I supposed to be laughing? Am I supposed to be scared? Am I supposed to, like, I don't even know what they're trying to invoke.
All of those things at once. Yes.
Like, I'm just like, I'm getting none of them. I'm getting none of them at all. I'm just like, okay, I don't know. The mom killed like 4 of them like, by herself. I don't know. It just wasn't one that hit for me. I understand that a lot of people love it, and that's cool. I get it. It's just one of those ones that just seems like just watching it without knowing.
Well, then you should have loved the second one, because that's kind of what the second one's all about.
I didn't watch the second one because I didn't like the first one.
Oh my god, dude!
I have the two-parter of it, but like I just was like, I needed a cleansing after that, and I didn't want to.
The second one is a cleansing after that.
The second one is
he doesn't understand. He's got to go watch the fucking
Key and Peele.
Jesus Christ! Like, yes, the first movie is supposed to be taken seriously, right? I get where you're coming from, and the reason you're acting the way you're acted was there's a few people who reacted that way to the movie. Like, it just isn't scary, it isn't funny. So Joe Dante's like, all right, I'll show you what I was trying to do, and then he literally makes a Looney Tunes movie into an hour and 45-minute Gremlins movie.
Do you like that one, or think that one's worse?
I love it. I fucking love it. You shouldn't love it, but it literally makes fun of itself. Like, you have a scene where the guy is making fun of the rules. He's like, it's literally midnight everywhere. Like, how does that work? Like,
right.
So, like, that's the movie is a movie within itself at a point where they literally like acknowledge the first movie as not only something that happened historically, but as a movie too at one point. So you're really going, wait a minute here. Are we in a meta world, or what the fuck is going on? And then the movie all of a sudden just erupts. Like, it stops. And Gremlins take over the fucking movie. Like, literally. Like,
the footage splits and all that. The real splits.
Like, this movie can't get any more batshit fucking crazy.
Oh, this thing is crazy.
Because it is. It's just fucking nuts. Because they said, here, we want a Gremlins 2, and Joe Dante's like, okay, I'll do it as long as you give me this amount of money and let me do whatever the fuck I want. And they did that, and it bombed horribly at the box office, but has become a cult classic of sorts, way beyond the first film, mostly because of just how batshit crazy it is. And then that Peel skit put it on a whole new level because it's so true and accurate. You have to see the movie though to get the skit, because if you don't see the movie, you're like, okay, I don't get it. Because in the second film, they literally take all the Gremlins and just make them wacky and goofy, and it's straight out, flat out satire comedy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, that might work. That I guess I might give that a shot and tell you what I think next week.
But the first movie is a horror movie made for kids. See, that's what you got to understand.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the problem, is you're too old for it. You have to have seen it when you're a kid, because it only scares and makes sense to a little kid. It's supposed to be the magical little creature that you got given as a gift, but it has the ultimate, price to pay with it if you fuck up the rules. And Billy fucks up the rules. That's kind of the whole overarching, main plot for kids. When you're a little kid, you see the movie. As an adult, you look at it and you're going, oh, okay, I can see what this is about. Because this came out right in the midst of the Cabbage Patch craze. And not only that, us as consumers were really, and I think that's part of the whole thing with having like the whole Chinese connection too, is in the 80s, we were starting to really kind of turn over a lot of our manufacturing to Asian countries, for instance. So like, there's that part of it too. And, there was that fear of, what are we importing? You know what I mean? Like,
I got you. I mean, I
as
thought
we
that
come to learn
element
later on, we learned that, all these race cars and toys we're bringing in from China have poisonous paint.
Lead poison.
So in a way,
I kind of wish they dipped more into that in a way, because I can kind of see what you mean there, where it's like we're more careless about the things that we have in general, as to where they tend to treat things a little bit more with care, I would think.
They pretty much do that, especially with how they talk about how he treats men, and then the old man coming back for him at the end.
Yeah, I'm saying that part's fine. That's fine.
You do with Mogwai what society does with all of nature's gifts.
Like, I almost kind of wish that character was in it more as well. I like the old man a little. I guess. I know that the chat is probably roasting me big time.
You got to see the second film, then you might kind of get it, because the second film totally takes the piss out of the first film. Like, totally. Like, you have to think of it almost like they're basically making an Airplane version as a sequel. Like, it really is. It's the closest thing. I don't know if I ever told you about Jaws 3 People Nothing. Like, this is probably the closest we'll ever get to Jaws 3 People Nothing. This is Gremlins 2 People Nothing.
Jaws 3 People Nothing.
Okay, when they were making Jaws sequels, the original producers are like, we can't keep doing this. This part 2 is too close to the original. The only way we can do this now, and Airplane was popular at the time, so like, maybe we should just make it a satire. So they had, was it the Zucker brothers or who? I can't remember who it was. Sit down and write a script. It's out there. I think you can find it. Maybe it was John Landis who wrote it. But like, it was called Jaws 3 People Nothing, and National Lampoons was going to produce it. It was supposed to be the third official sequel to Jaws, but it was also at that point them just doing a send up of Jaws, because they thought, well, at this point we just got to make it a comedy. You know what I mean?
I assume so. They knew that the first movie made a lot of money. How much did the second movie make to it?
To Gremlins or to Jaws?
Or to the second Jaws? The
second Jaws did about a third of the first film. They knew it did okay. Well, that's where the studio panicked. They're like, you can't do that. You got to just make more of the same.
Because like, I was trying to think of their process maybe in that time of like making sequels, because I kind of liked Jaws 2 in a way, at least the first half of Jaws 2.
Well, that's what the producers were saying.
We got away paranoid about the shark attack. Like, I like that aspect.
That's what he said. Like, they're like, well, we got away with it with the second film. We can't do this again, because people are just going to be like, well, you're just giving us the same thing again.
Right.
And I've tried to explain. I think I remember talking about this. I don't know if you were on this show, but when Jaws 2 came out, like, people got to remember, there wasn't a lot of franchises that had sequels to that point, especially something that prestigious.
Yeah, that's supposed to be one of the first to like sequel to like.
Well, it was the first one to ever have the number 2 in the title for one.
Right. Yeah, it might not have been on this show, but we have talked about that before. You've explained that to me with I
mean, you had the Planet of the Apes, you had some of your other Universal horror films.
Yeah, but none of them had like Planet of the Apes 2 Escape.
Exactly.
Like, and all that stuff.
You had Godfather Part 2, but that was Roman numerals, and people almost saw that as a second part, like a mini series kind of thing. To where when people are like Jaws 2, like that was completely different. And they even tried to advertise, all new Jaws 2.
Right.
Like it was all over everything.
Well, hey, you mentioned The Godfather. I saw The Godfather last week, and I loved that. Okay, guys. Okay, fist bump. Okay,
we get that. We're still in shock here over Gremlins, man.
that's
you
all right.
to be honest, you are very, very small
Do you
percentage.
like rubber monster movies? Do you like rubber monster movies? Because Gremlins is like the godfather of rubber monster movies, man.
Okay, so I got to put perspective for people that might not get it. Like I was just looking through my movies, and I have like maybe 400, and then I asked how much FanZcene has. It's like I have like 5,000. Like 3 to 5, just like maybe. I thought I have a big collection. Mine is puny compared to y'all. I've only been like into films for a little while, and then Tom has a whole store behind him with the stuff.
This is just part of it.
I am still watching a lot of stuff. I am the more that I watch, the more appreciation I can get for films. So like even for Gremlins, even though I didn't like it, I can see that for the time its puppetry was probably like freaking. I don't know how much puppet work that would have like. That probably was the most.
That was the big thing. Look, like
biggest amount of
Gremlins created a animatronics movie monster craze like you wouldn't believe. Because The Thing came out 2 years before that, and it didn't do anything at the box office. I believe that it would have been sooner had The Thing hit, but no, Gremlins hit. Right time, right place. Ghostbusters also had very similar kind of special effects. And that was the thing, is people were seeing things like we had never seen before. The thing about the Gremlins that most people didn't understand is 90% of them are Muppets. They're just Muppets. There's nothing special about them. The ones that are expensive and fancy are like the one you saw eating the cookie and like Stripe when he's hanging off of the fountain and stuff at the end. That's the expensive Gremlins. Those were the fully animatronic $10,000 Gremlins or whatever it was, or $20,000, $25,000 Gremlins, even more than that maybe.
Yeah.
But like what they did for the first film, they did that times 10 for the second film. Right? Like they had a whole warehouse full of Gremlins and shit that were way advanced. So you can see just in the 5 years between the two movies, or 6 years, how far. And I mean, Ninja Turtles kind of happened because of Gremlins, right? Like they had gotten to that point with the animatronics that are like, okay, now we can make believable creatures and characters
to be a little more confident moving up from the typical costumes and
just like, a Muppet or like a basic Muppet, but like there's a lot. I guess when you put it that way, I don't even think of like Ninja Turtles as like one of those types of ones, but they are, right? Like I like that stuff. I'm a Power Rangers guy, like come on, like I do. Oh yeah, no, there's a straight evolution of like Jim Henson coming in with whatever he was doing and George Lucas working together on like Labyrinth and such. Yeah, there are key moments in movie history where you had a huge jump in technology in as far as what we could do. Because I mean, just think about a few years before that, Jaws, they could barely get the son of a bitch to open and close its mouth, right? Like
all the malfunctions.
And then you get to Gremlins, and you've got a gremlin on screen that not only opens his mouth and closes it, but does a full-on snarl and can.
Yeah, they did a lot of expressive.
That whole thing with its head and just that whole spin, like that thing, to see that on screen in 1984, you're like, holy shit, that thing's real. Like it's
that's good. I like hearing that. I like hearing that was the
first time I saw that gremlin sitting on that counter eating that cookie, and he turns his head when he hears Billy's mom. Like I would have loved to have been in the theater. I didn't get to see it until video, but like I can imagine in the theater, like that entire theater just went, holy shit, like, and freaked out because like we had never seen shit like that before. That realistic, without wires, without any kind of obvious puppetry, like in the way it moved so fluidly. And I mean, sure, it's a bunch of tricking our eyes at that time. It's, running at a higher frame rate, so it feels like it's moving smoother. They shot it much slower than it really was, and all that kind of business, but it just worked so brilliantly perfect at that moment in the movie that everything from that point on is just like icing on the cake, pretty much.
Yeah.
I gotcha. I mean, hearing the film techniques makes me like that aspect of it, at least. I do appreciate the achievements that come out of that, because that's...
Well, what went into the making of the movie is even more nuts. Like,
This does have commentary on here. I might watch watch the special features and them talking about the film because just like again, just watching it with only knowing that it's super hyped, that everybody loves it. Like that was all I went in with it. I knew so little about it. You know, the only thing I guess going in, I guess I was aware of the rules because people repeat that stuff all the time in our sphere with stuff. I just just also I guess the Gremlin itself, the Gizmo and stuff. Like there was things people seem to like things like that when they were a kid. I never did. I was like, get that away from me. Like not that scary. I just didn't want any of that stuff. I was
and that came out in the 80s in that time area where we loved those little kind of creatures and sidekicks.
Never into those little.
And that's the thing is in the original script. That's the funny thing is I'm curious how much what you would think of the original script because it's out there. You can get it fairly easily.
It sounds like the original script is more what I would think would work for this.
You might because the original story is more of a flat out horror story. What happens is he's more of a kid in the original story. Billy is. And when he gets Gizmo, he don't like Gizmo. Gizmo's a little shit.
I feel like that would help it already because, like, I think of Child's Play and stuff, and like,
because basically what you find out
right there, and that helps in like the danger aspect, where what's going to happen, what are they going to do, what's going to happen. The kid is in danger at all times. What's going to happen?
Well, and Gizmo doesn't exist. That was what I was getting to. Is Gizmo is not even a character in the original script. Steven Spielberg is the one to blame for Gizmo. Because he came in one day and he saw the Mogwai and he goes, "Oh my God, they're adorable. We got to have one of these through the whole movie." And Chris Wallace had a heart attack. He's like, "What?" He's like, "I have only enough Mogwais built for the first, part of the film. Once they turn to Gremlins, I got nothing. I got nothing here." He's like, "How the fuck am I going to get this kid to be hauling around this Mogwai?" And you got to remember, these things are tiny. I mean, extremely tiny. So they even built big heads. Like oversized heads that were like this big of the Mogwai. So when they do the close-up shots,
that's for
that's what they are. Is these huge Muppet heads basically. And so he's like, "I got nothing that I can do with this," because in the original script, Stripe was the main Mogwai. There was no Gizmo, and Stripe eats the family dog after midnight. That's how they turn into Gremlins, and they kill the mother. They roll her head down the stairs when Billy gets home.
See, just already you sold me a lot more.
They take over the entire town. Well, Steven Spielberg is the reason all this changed. They take over the entire town, and you got this news broadcast that's talking about them taking over the airport, which is a callback to the whole thing with the Warner Brothers cartoon in the World War II, them being attracted to airplanes and stuff like that.
Right.
And then you got at the end of the story, the punchline is they took over a McDonald's, they killed and ate the people, but they left all the burgers untouched.
All the food there, yeah. that'd have been funny in itself. And
the other thing about it that's different is they have the separation anxiety, like the Mogwai or Gremlin, because I think they're still called Mogwai throughout the entire script. They never differentiate the two because they're pretty much the same. There's one has hair, one doesn't, right? Like that's the only difference at that point. And they basically they have this separation anxiety thing, so they use that against them. So they capture one and they drag them all to a warehouse and blow them up. And then the end of the movie is you think everything's fine, and then you realize they forgot about the one they had in the trunk.
Right.
So it's like, it's kind of like there's still one left. Yeah.
I bet he would be a Critters fan. I bet Critters.
And that's the fucked up thing is Critters 2 is very similar to that original Gremlins script.
Critters 2 is very close to the original Gremlins. You would be a Critters fan. I guarantee it.
I guess I'll try Critters out. I'm gonna watch the special features of Gremlins before I try Gremlins 2. I like hearing the making of it a lot better than the film itself.
Well, and I've got a lot more stuff on the making of it than what's on that disc there, but
that stuff sounds really interesting.
I even have a bunch of test footage from Chris Wallace of when they were trying to figure out how to do all this shit. They even had they don't have the footage, but they even went to the extent of putting an orangutan in a Gremlins outfit, and the motherfucker freaked out. So they're like, "Well, we can't do this."
Nope.
And that's what's sad is like if you look at the Gremlins, that's probably why they are the body shape they are, because that's what they were probably thinking the whole time. Is for a lot of the shots we'll be able to use the Muppets, but for these like long shots where we got bunches of Gremlins or we got Gremlins running around, we could probably just put a outfit on a monkey or
a monkey and have it walk the street or something.
And that's why they're the shape they are. If you look at them, they're like the shape of an orangutan or whatever, to where they got the long arms, short legs. stout body, big head. Yeah.
Yeah, and so again, there's aspects that I like to it. I'll try to list some of the things that I liked
because the original
like
Gremlins, as they were explained, they're not really explained at all in the script. It was Chris Wayless who came in and designed them, and his whole thing was okay. If they're night creatures, he gave them a lot of features like bats, right?
Right. Yeah,
and then everybody's like and then he thought about the whole
humanoid bats kind of
coming from China. Then he threw in a lot of the dragon scales and the kind of the looks of a dragon, as far as just little things here and there. The mouth has a very dragony kind of.
The design of the Gremlins are good. Those are fine. That is fine.
And I think you'll like the second film unironically, because you'll probably be like, now I see what this movie's trying to do. Because the funny thing is, the second film was a little bit of actually way ahead of its time. Way ahead of its time. Yeah.
How long after the first film did the second?
6 years. 6 years. Yeah. Okay. See, and that was part of the problem is Warner Brothers kept trying to get something off the ground, and they begged Dante to finally come back and do a sequel, and that's where he's like, well, fine, I'll do it, but it's got to be my way.
Right.
And they're like, whatever, here's all the money in the world. They gave him a lot of money. That movie lost a lot of money. Pretty much probably whatever profit that Gremlins made them, it went out the window with Gremlins 2. Because they spent so much money on that movie. Basically, I think it's Robert Meyer Burnett, I think, wasn't it? Who had that story where he was like, I think it was Robert or Chris. One of them told me the story about they were at Warner Brothers at the time.
Oh yeah. I think it was Robert, because I was there.
It was Robert. And the whole warehouse of Gremlins, 2 Gremlins. Mm-hmm. And nobody was allowed in there because there was a couple, how many millions of dollars did he say it was worth of Gremlins in there? It was in the multi digits. It was like a dozen million, like $12 million worth of Gremlins or something like that. He said that was in there. And it was just insane. All the Gremlins puppets from Gremlins 2 were in this big warehouse.
Yeah. And he did say he did go in there. So
yeah, they weren't supposed to, but he would go in there and show people shit all the time. Yeah.
The heads and stuff. I remember saying that.
What's funny is Red Letter Media bought a bunch of that stuff, because there was tons of Gremlin arms and other things they bought. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, no, I like that they that these little supposedly cute things turn into, or they get into these egg things that are sort of makes you think of Alien anyway instantly.
Yes, there's a little bit of that with the pods, definitely.
I like that type of concept. What are these alien or foreign creatures? What is going on with
we talk about different kind of horror movies. This is a pod people movie. Okay, see, that's the other thing you should look at it as too. Although it's a creature and not taking over people, it's definitely a pod people movie in that respect, and that's why Dante keeps having scenes from Body Snatchers throughout the movie.
I gotcha. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I guess my biggest thing, is that there didn't seem to be as many things set up to pay off. I guess the lady with the issue with the dog, the father with the invention.
That's a bit that got cut out quite a bit. Was Mrs. Deagle
be some things that I'm they're setting up for me. I'm thinking that things are going to.
You've seen It's a Wonderful Life, right?
I know I've seen it. It's just one of those ones that.
Okay, well, here's the thing: if they would have left all the Mrs. Deagle stuff in there, you would have probably definitely got to. Oh, I see. They're doing It's a Wonderful Life, but with teeth, because Mrs. Deagle has this whole underlying storyline that's cut completely out of the movie, and what it is she's buying up all this property in town, and she's doing it so she can dump toxic waste. Okay. So it's kind of like Mr. Potter buying up all the whole town. Yeah. So there's a whole plot line that got completely erased. And that's why the whole thing with her owning all these homes and shit, and she's bugging people for rent and stuff. So she basically owns the Peltzer's home and Kate's home and everybody else in the town.
And she's rich and stuff. And I thought that would play with something with the poor. And you mentioned consumer stuff, but that just seemed to be just kind of separate.
And that was again lost in the mix of, unfortunately, the movie getting chopped down.
The mom character, they set up quite a bit before all the Gremlins start going around that his inventions work, but they're a little kooky and they sometimes malfunction, and he's a silly inventor kind of a guy. But I thought that the mom or the son were going to use his inventions to start I thought that those were going to be more pivotal to defeating the Gremlins in some way, or to fighting back.
Okay, what you're talking about is the Troll Man storyline, or the Troll Hunter storyline that got taken out. Because remember the scene where he takes the sword and he chops the one's head off?
Yeah.
He's supposed to keep the sword through the rest of the story. He loses it though. In the movie we saw, but
I was more referencing like the little gadget that has the razor.
Let me explain this though. Okay, now you remember he's doing this art throughout the movie in the beginning, and it just kind of gets lost later on. Yeah, what he's drawing, a lot of things kind of get lost. What he's drawing there is the troll hunter character that he created, and that was supposed to lead into the whole idea of these trolls. Instead of trolls, he's fighting gremlins. So by the end of the story, he basically becomes the character that he's been writing this whole time in his little comic book. Like okay, that again is also lost in the mix, and I think he would have liked that because at least he would have hung on to the sword the whole time. It's not his dad's inventions, but he hangs on to the sword. And his dad's inventions played a little bit bigger part in the other part of the story too. Got cut out because that's how Gizmo got his name. Because on the way home, you know how his inventions are always breaking. Gizmo fixes the bathroom buddy on the way home, and he just
randomly says, he likes the name Gizmo that I gave him.
That's not what happened in the original story either. Like I think this is filmed, but they just didn't use it in the movie because this is in all because Gizmo was an added thing later on, is what I've been trying to say this whole time.
I got you.
So he basically is sitting there in a car supposedly, and this is in the novelizations. And Gizmo fixes the bathroom buddy, and he goes, "You're good with those little gizmos, aren't you?" He goes, "That's a good name for you. I'll call you Gizmo." And that's how he got his name. And that's why I said it makes no sense that they call him Gizmo in that prequel animated series they got out now too. It's like, I don't even think people used the term Gizmo back then, but okay, whatever.
Yeah.
So you got the same name twice, huh?
I like that you're informing me with this stuff, because I feel like this should help people, at least in the chat, understand my thought process going through a lot of this and what I'm noticing in the film.
It's a pod people meets
so many things just like left off, and then the one isolated scene.
It's kind of a monkey paws story at the same time too, right? With the rules.
That's what it felt like at first, but then I was just like, they didn't really seem to like nothing about the rules specifically. I mean, we know what they are, but there wasn't enough. Again, there's so many things in there. There's so many things in the film that are just kind of like loose threads or trees that start to grow but branch out into themselves, and I'm just like
well, that's the 80s for you. This is where
it felt unsatisfying by the end. I'm just kind of like, yeah, that was the movie, I guess.
I didn't have a problem with that at the time. I mean, I guess, but that's just the 80s for you, I guess, is the best excuse.
Right, but again, I'm coming in through it with just what I've learned and with what I'm doing, what I've seen and stuff, and what I know. And but knowing more about this makes me like I'm going to watch the special features. I like that stuff. I like what you're telling me with it. That's freaking. This is a cool origin for this movie, and like how the making of it and stuff. I love this with that. But yeah, just I don't like it. But
I'm sorry.
I like talking about this. This is fun. And
well,
the chat.
Maybe you'll give the second one a chance and see what you think of that.
I'll give the second one a chance. I'll check out the special features and see what's up. But
all right.
Me and Gremlins aren't great.
Yeah.
That's all right.
All right. Well, good to me. And since Tom, you sort of brought this up, and this movie has been brought on the channel before, but I don't think I've ever brought my copy on. And you mentioned it there a minute ago. I got The Thing on 4K. I don't think I've ever brought mine on here before, though. The Thing. John Carpenter's. My dad had never seen this movie.
Really?
Yeah. So we watched it. Me, my mom, and dad watched it Saturday night. It was great. It was a good time. They enjoyed it.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
Yeah. You gotta love it, because I'm sitting there and the blood scene's coming up, and my mom doesn't like scary movies, and she's had paid attention to most of the movies. She goes, "So it's this guy, right? It's the guy on the chair, right? It's this guy. No, it's the black guy, right?" And my dad's just sitting there, just quiet. And I'm watching them, and they get to the blood, and it goes, "Well, who can it be?" And there pops up, my dad jumps, and my mom jumps, and I'm just like, "Yes, it worked." It was great. It was so good. It was awesome. I loved it. I had a good time. It was just they had never seen it, and I was like, "You guys got to check out the 4K," and it was just a good time. I love the movie. We've talked about the movie a lot on here. So
yeah, that is, so for reference for people, that The Thing is the movie that got me into wanting to give horror films a try again, because for many years I stopped watching horror films because I thought that a lot of them, I saw too many that were just awful. And then I saw The Thing, thanks to FanZcene and Snowdub for suggesting it. Like, watch The Thing and see what you think. And I freaking love the thing. That is one of my that's like in my top 5 of movies right now. From what I see, I love the thing. So good. I freaking love the thing, and that got me into seeing They Live, and then now I'm completely open to trying out a bunch of horror films thanks to the thing. The thing, fucking solid. That
it is solid. It's
hard
great
to criticize.
movie.
I can't think of anything to criticize with it. It's like, wait, what? Wait, put a woman in it? No, that ruined it.
Put a woman in it, make it lame.
Put a chicken in it, make it gay.
Yeah.
Tyrell, the 4K is incredible. It is better than the Shout Factory 2K remaster. The 4K it's one of the best looking 4Ks I've seen.
I was gonna say it's one that a lot of people have said is reference quality. I have to agree. It's been a while since I watched it, but
yeah,
I remember it being a pretty good transfer.
It's a pretty good transfer. But I had fun. I mean, for those, I'm sure we all know the thing. John Carpenter's huge fan of the original, did his own thing, which was great that he didn't try to straight up copy it. He has enough love for the original in the movie for people who love the original and enough new stuff. Amazing, incredible special effects by Rob Bottin, who almost died doing the special effects. He was literally put in a hospital for doing all the special effects. It's an amazing movie. It's just fear, tension, claustrophobia. It's a master of how to make a movie in that vein.
Heebie-jeebies. They were like tied next to the thing as it was transforming and like coming out. And
we found something. We found something.
Tear me from this fucking chair. Everybody says I love it. I don't want to spend the whole winter tied to this fucking chair.
I love the mistrust feeling about it. I mean, that's like one of the perfect. Sorry, it's not body swap? What's it called?
Body horror.
No, I mean where you don't know who's who. We talked about it last week.
Oh yeah.
Mind mystery. I can't get the name.
I know it's right there. I know
like
you're talking about.
And like those, the imposters, impersonation. What's the name?
Doppelgangers.
Doppelganger. Yeah, sort of. I guess that's the closest to it. Doppelganger type of stories that are like you don't know who to trust in your group, and that does it in such a good way. The dog scene. I was like. Well, these poor dogs, no. But then, of course, people die too. But it's funny. It's funny how a lot of people have emotional reactions to animals compared to all these people that get killed in it too. But it's they're in a cage. They're just being dogs, and they're just, this mutant thing. It's like freaking. And then that was such a good film.
I seen somebody post a theory on Twitter the other day that I had never thought of because it's explained into the movie. The doctor explains in the movie that all it needs is just like a tiny portion of your cell to mimic you, to becomes a part of you or whatever that they say, right? So And so somebody was saying, well, I wonder if this is intentional because when the dog shows up at camp in the beginning of the movie, the guy he jumps on, he licks him, right? And the Norwegian guy shoots that guy in the leg. Not the dog. So it's like they were saying, was the dog already assimilating that guy right then and there, or it was trying to because he only needs a small sample of your DNA to copy you or whatever? And I was like, that makes a good point because he does shoot. I mean, even though it looks like maybe he's missing the dog, but
it seemed like they couldn't hit him that whole time.
Was he really missing the dog and it shot that guy because he knew what was going to eventually happen? It's a theory, but yeah, I love the movie. It's a great movie.
Body Snatchers was the word I was looking for, guys. Thank you.
Well, we just talked about it 10 seconds ago.
Yeah, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
For some reason,
it's the only reson I didn't say it because I'm like, well, we were just talking about Body Snatchers. So
I know that's why I was like, what's the stupid word that's escaping me? But no, it's so good. It's one of the ones that you guys know. Of course, you guys know more than anything about us probably tonight. They're trying to make a sequel, right? Or they've been trying to make a sequel. I'm kind of confused on their.
Well, there was a prequel.
There was a prequel. That's
yeah. I'm not talking about that. No. So like afterward,
I think they're doing a reboot-quel thingy.
From what I understand, is there was. I'm not sure if this was what. I know there was talks with bringing Kurt Russell and Keith David back. but I also heard that they found more of the original story that the thing is based off of. It's based off of a novella, but apparently they found more of the story that was written that makes it a full-on novel, and that they were thinking about making that into a movie. That the whole story would combine into a movie. So I don't know. Personally, I wish I'd rather not. I'm cool with what it is, how we have it. So
yeah, I'm of the frame of like, we don't, even if it's like kind of mystery of like, well, did the thing survive, or will it be unthawed, or whatever? Will it be? I don't care. I don't want to know. Like, I prefer the mystery of it and not a continuation, because it makes me think it'll become one of those franchises again. It's like, no, just can we just have one be done and be it, and just have that be as it is, and not a full answer. Which was there a legitimate answer to whether or not the thing like lived or died at the end, or was it meant like is it supposed to be like ambiguous or uncertain? Because a lot of people seem certain that it was like the black guy or something at the end, when he did the drink.
Yeah, because the bottle had kerosene in it, so they assumed Childs is the thing. Somebody just did a video, which I haven't watched, that they said McCready was the thing the whole time, and I can prove it. So I have not watched that video, but there's a video out there on YouTube for you. That
videos make me want to watch the video and then rewatch the
movie. Was Childs the thing? I tend to think maybe he was, but you never really know, because you also, I love the fact that the whole time, like with McCready, Kurt Russell's character, he's like got the long johns the whole time, and it never tells you who those dang long johns belong to. Because the name, I mean, like, it's the whole movie. Like, he's holding them, he's looking at them. They seem familiar to him. So could they have been McCready's? Could McCready have become a thing at some point? But then the blood test didn't work on him. So I love the questions that it leaves in your head.
Do you know how to duplicate human blood so it wouldn't do that?
That's true. That is true. So
I don't know.
Yeah.
Did he? I mean, I like the thing. I don't get into it as much as some people do. I like the ambiguity of it. I like that
the
it's
ambiguity of it as well.
a nice little,
same here,
kind of self-contained story of sorts.
There doesn't need to be answers to every question that it presents, but it is one of those films that, at least one of the only ones that I've seen, where like it's like I don't know, like you need, like, oh, did this happen in the thing? I have to go check. Like, you're going back to a book or something, like, to check your answer. Like, was that what fucking happened? Like, wait, what? And, and like, you can lose it so easily because the scenes engage you so much and what's going on, that it's like they're so.
Well,
like,
and the problem with this stuff sometimes is because we think about this shit more and take longer to think about it.
They might have not at all crossed their mind, and they're like, "What are y'all looking at for? Why are you staring at?"
I just had the dog licked, dude. That's all. I don't know.
Like, honestly, John has been asked the question so many times. Kurt's been asked the question so many times. I'm sure they've got their answers set up that they give out, but like at the time they were making it, the whole I guarantee you, just coming from a point of view, somebody who's worked on projects like this before, where you want to fuck with the audience like that, they never intended for there to be an answer. Probably that's kind of the whole point.
Yeah, that's
right. Like, as a filmmaker, you want the audience going out doing that debate on their own, and if you put any kind of real answer in there, then that's you know what I mean. You kind of ruin the whole.
You ruin
and the fact that you have those two sitting there at the end, and they're the last two. And it doesn't really matter, because as long as, nobody else comes to rescue them, they're fucked. And so is the thing. Then it doesn't really matter. It's kind of a downer of an ending, but humanity still wins at the end of the day.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Was there, remind me if I'm wrong, there's when they do the blood scene, do we see him take the samples of blood, or does it cut to he's already taken the samples of blood?
He just cuts to he's already taken it.
Is it possible?
Well, no, they show him cutting up the fingers of some of them.
I was gonna say, like, what is it possible that he put some of the blood into the wrong petri dish on purpose to?
I'd have to watch it again.
Something, but I don't know. Well, because then it did happen to be the.
I tend to lead to the theory that McCready was never.
That one seems hard. That was really hard. I was trying to follow that for a second.
But then again, it makes it the most obvious that he's trying to deflect as well, if he is.
Yeah.
But then the thing did transform from that guy, so it's like, it's not really faked anyway. So. But I mean, for his own, I guess, if he swapped his own with somebody else's and didn't get to theirs and did that, then he could technically maybe.
But Steven's also right, is that McCready is also the audience. So
yeah,
you can't really do that to the audience either.
Well, it's like, is it you can't or you shouldn't?
Well, you can, but you shouldn't.
It's like you probably shouldn't, right? So
Yeah,
we have some type of reliable narrator in the story.
Because to me, that's when movies really piss me off.
Right.
Like nothing pisses me off than you thinking at the end of your movie that, oh, this was all happening in this person's brain the whole time, and they're actually all the characters or whatever, like that John Cusack movie.
Yeah, I was just about to say that's why I hated that damn John Cusack
hate
movie.
it. It's like you can't get more pretentious than that. It's like, good God, give me something better than that. Is this because you can't come up with a good fucking mystery? Agatha Christie wrote fucking hundreds of them. What is your fucking excuse? Right?
Even
Just go steal one of them.
Nicolas Cage kind of does that too. And like, it goes all the way back to the cabin. He's like, I'm going to do something different. It's like,
look, I get it. Agatha Christie kind of ruined it for everybody else. That's why everybody just kind of copies 10 Little Indians all the time.
Everybody just copy her all the time.
Really, what do you do? I mean, it's Clue is an Agatha Christie movie, really, if you think about it.
And they knew it. Clue knew it. That's what it plays into it. So
I mean, it's more of a satire on that whole idea. But like, yes, it's just look. Add some mystery. Why is it so hard for these fuckers to do mystery anymore? I just don't understand.
Could have a mystery box.
Yes, no, fuck that. You have to have an answer at the end. The only time I'll give them an excuse is The Thing was the exception. Because why? Because at that time, that was the audience expecting an answer. It's like, no, we're not going to give you an answer.
Yeah,
right.
You decide.
I think it depends on how they treat the audience to whether or not
exactly. That's true, Rook.
At the end, that's how I feel. Because I think there's some that. A few things I've seen where
and what I'm getting at here is if you find out at the end that you know Kurt Russell's character was the Thing the whole time, I feel like that would be a cheat.
No, it'd be like, how do you trust a movie that you're watching ever again?
Exactly.
Like,
and that's what I mean. You shouldn't do that to your audience. Exactly. You cannot. An unreliable narrator only works so far. The Joker can do that. Certain movies you can do that when you get away with it, but you can't do that all the time. You can't jerk your audience around like that too often.
It's got to be like few and far between those type of movies.
Yeah, it depends on the character. Like you just said, the Joker will deliberately he'll conflict with his own inconsistencies or whatever. He'll conflict his own story, so you can't trust him anyway. I mean, I was going to ask Bryant's question as well. How come it did so poorly with something that's so good, especially for that time? Like, and you said that Gremlins came out a little later after that, and that did pretty well for the time too, right?
Carpenter was always ahead of his time. So
always ahead of his time. Well, and I just meant with the special effects side of things. Yeah, Carpenter. I think the problem with the Thing is Carpenter always has this bad luck of coming out up against movies that just seem to suck up all the oxygen out of the room, and then 10 years later, people are like, "Oh yeah, that John Carpenter movie was amazing." When it's like, why didn't you go
sour or something? Like,
no, I honestly just think he's one of those guys that has always had the bad luck. Because I think didn't the Thing open up against E.T. or Poltergeist, one of the two?
It came out in the summer of '82 when.
Yeah. Oh, did we lose Greg?
Maybe I thought you guys both stopped talking.
No, we lost. Greg. I heard him cut off completely. I didn't even hear his room noise. No, okay, so there's Greg. He's back.
I don't know what happened. I started talking and it clicked out and it clicked back in.
I was going to say, I agree with you. I think it came out up against. I can't remember if it was E.T. or Poltergeist, and it got killed basically at the box
came
office.
Out then, like that. Also, like, let's see, E.T., Poltergeist. Wrath of Khan came out.
82 was a big year, but I know it came out against one of those films.
I think it might have been E.T.
And see, that's the thing is, Carpenter just always manages to release a movie right around something else that kind of takes up all the oxygen, and then people remember it later on when it's on video. It's hard to believe that the only movies he's ever had that were box office hits were technically Halloween and Starman. Most people don't realize Starman is his highest grossing movie.
Yeah.
Well, I think if I'm trying to guess, so the Thing is I mean, at the time, did they know? Because they probably were aware of the other Thing movie, right? At the time, the earlier one that existed.
The original.
So I don't know if they knew what like a reboot was, or
remakes weren't so taboo at that point.
They might have. Oh, I've heard of that type of movie, or it's aliens, or would it be a thing where they maybe brush off more because the title itself isn't as grabbing for the 80s?
No, I really at the time growing up, I don't ever remember anybody like The Thing was always one of those movies that everybody always liked. again, I just think it got lost in the shuffle of so many other movies of that year.
Everybody else would be talking about the Poltergeist or E.T.
Exactly.
Thing would be on the last of people's talking.
And Wrath of Khan and things like that took kind of the wind out of its sails.
I guess I can see the momentum.
Blade Runner suffered that too, but look at that. Blade Runner
yeah.
still lives on, even though it bombed in 82. Same kind of reasoning, but yeah.
Yep. And Tron came out in the same
Tron was another same kind of thing. Well, Tron did okay, but like again, yeah. See, Carpenter usually manages to do okay sometimes, but like his bigger films that people usually talk about are the ones that bombed the worst at the box office. Because I know The Thing did really horribly. Big Trouble in Little China did very horribly, if I remember right.
Wow.
Yeah, that was one of the big, and then like. Oh,
but see, then they become big, huge hits on cable and video. See, that's where Carpenter really shined. Is that he managed to come out in the age, because that's where answering your question about remakes. See, people, I don't think they gave a shit as much, at least when I was growing up. I don't remember remake becoming a taboo thing until they started to encroach on films that people actually loved and had a fond memory for, in a sense. And I think a big part of that was video, because prior to that, the only time you got a chance to see a movie is if you managed to catch it on TV or if you happen to go see it in the theaters and such like that. So to get a remake of King Kong in 76, I've made this point before, I don't think that did okay at the theaters. And I think a lot of people were fine with that. And for a while, to me, that was the only King Kong I knew, because they didn't bring back out the original one until I was like 12 or 13. I finally saw it when Turner bought the rights to it. And growing up, to me, King Kong was the 76 Dino De Laurentiis King Kong.
Yeah.
And because at that point, video was just kind of becoming a thing, and nobody had, King Kong didn't get released on home video until 1992 or whatever. I put the original advertisement for it on my X account or whatever. Fuck Twitter.
So I'm assuming that people that maybe at the time when video was coming around more, that they were like, oh, if I missed the movie, well, I can just get it later on video.
That's the thing, yeah.
Instead of trying to always, I gotta get those few weeks in the theater or months. They were in it for a couple months at the time, right?
At that time, a movie would run for years.
Yeah.
Shit. Wow.
E.T. did not hit video. E.T. came out in 1982, but it did not hit video until 1988.
They're in and out of movies so often these days. I can't even almost believe that.
Oh,
it's because they would re-release it all the time.
Yeah, and I think that's why we've, like, a lot of us have grown so fond of these movies.
And that's my point I was getting to, exactly.
Yeah. The heart makes, grows fonder, because these movies would go in theaters and they would travel. It's not like today where like one movie will open on 5,000 screens. It's like back then it was like they'll go to territories. They'll open here for a while on these many screens.
Well, not just that, but like the video, like we remember these movies. They're like songs.
Yeah.
We know each beat. We know each and every little instrument. When we hear them and we see them, we know them. We quote them daily, and that's because they were in our daily lives. We were the Disney generation, right? We were the ones who grew up with home videos, constantly watching them over and over and over and over. And Gremlins was one of those movies I watched over and over and over and over again as a kid, to the point where my dad fucking hates that movie because of But it's just one of those time periods. We grew up in a weird time where it was like, I remember movies were like this elusive thing. Like you could try and get your hands on a movie once in a great while. Video started to become a thing. And then we started to get these old classic films we never used to see before that you only had heard about, like Dracula and King Kong.
That's how I got
I think that's something important to already highlight, that when video was first starting to come out, and then they were making films that maybe were out that you haven't seen, right? I'm assuming because they would only be in theaters otherwise.
Yes,
right.
Or on or you had to wait for television, basically.
So like Jaws. So like if Jaws was before your time, and in theaters, and then they make a video, well, now you can finally see that movie.
First time I saw Jaws was on TV.
Yes,
me too.
That's an.
It wasn't on video.
I wish I could almost travel to that kind of.
And they made a big fucking deal out of it, Rook. You can go look up here. Actually, I think we can probably get away with it with the clips because they cut them up enough. I'll show you. This is the kind of shit that would get us going in fucking sane as kids.
Oh, tell me. I mean, like I meant to say, like the Universal Monsters when they came out on VHS. That's how I experienced it.
This is Jaws too, but this is even better, man.
Yeah.
This is what I'm talking about. When you heard this shit, from the room in the other room, you come a running.
Sunday night.
Yep. Oh, what's on Sunday?
Central and Mountain.
Oh, Jaws 2! Yes!
Yes.
son and husband are still out there.
Roy Scheider in the television premiere of Jaws 2. Sunday on ABC.
That's the shit you waited to hear.
Dude, I remember waiting for Superman 2. Superman 2 is coming on TV. Fucking Superman 2.
You were running around screaming, yes, finally, we get to see Jaws 2 again.
See, it's like I've never had that experience because like everything's always been available at all times pretty much for me. It's like I wish I could almost experience that where it's like the movies that were around, because that's something I think my generation really doesn't.
For the first time on network television, where there were no better words than that.
Like, you know, I could just go, hey, I want to watch Xena from like the 90s. I want to watch Stargate. I want to watch something. I want to watch.
You know what was the worst part, Rook?
I can just do that.
You know what was the worst part? Is when they would show shit like Police Academy 3 and Karate Kid 2 on the same fucking night.
Oh yeah,
no. Oh, that's tough. But I'd go.
You
for
dirty
2,
bastards, make me choose.
I'd choose Karate Kid 3 or 2 over Police Academy 3. But
of course you would. That's the wrong logical choice. But
I still like Police Academy. That'd be my save. That'd be my second.
Now I've got a hole in my Police Academy collection.
You have to catch it on the next go around.
Yes, you had to wait for hopefully they would repeat them once in a while. Yeah,
it's like I kind of want them to stop making movies right now. Like the strikes, all right, stop making movies for 5 years so I can catch up a little on older movies.
But until HBO, man, you were at the whim of that shit, man. You got to understand, like, and your theater didn't have 6 multiplex screens, right? Like you had 1 screen or 2 screens tops, and you if you didn't go that weekend, you didn't fucking see it, right? Like that was it. Like, you know.
Damn.
Barth, I see your hot take here, but no, I do not think home media ruined the film experience.
No.
I think digital and streaming is doing that right now.
In fact, I would argue, yes, you're right. In fact, if anything, home media helped bring theaters back, because you got to remember throughout the 60s and 70s up until Star Wars, that was the big thing. Is that time period, Star Wars, VHS, all happened right at the same time. And the reason for that is why I think we have surround sound and all that shit today. If it wasn't for that, we'd be watching movies still with mono crappy sound. Yeah. I mean, sure, there was a few features before Star Wars that had stereo sound and all that business, but what VHS and Laserdisc and stuff like that did to theaters is the same thing TV did to theaters. And a lot of people are like, oh, TV's going to kill theaters. Oh, no.
Yeah.
It made them adapt. Right, they came up with widescreen, and they come up with all kinds of other things to kind of get people to come in.
Gives you an experience to
exactly,
for it, and then a different experience when you come home.
So to me, when I was a kid, sure, it was great to see a movie on home video or on TV, but going to see it in a theater was a completely different thing because you got to see it in widescreen on a big screen with full-on surround sound if you were lucky, and all that kind of stuff. And it, you know, to have a surround sound system back in the 80s.
Right.
I remember my buddy was the first person I ever knew with a surround sound system. Do you know what he paid for that son of a bitch back in like 1991 or 2?
$3,000.
Close, Rook. You're fucking not too far off. Once you probably add everything up together with the Laserdisc player, the surround sound system, the speakers, the TV itself. Between everything he spent, and a lot of it was his own money. His parents helped him, but you know, he would work on the weekends, and he did it. I was impressed. I was so pissed at him though, because he went and sold it all for like $400. I'm like, you dirty motherfucker! No. I'd have paid that for just your Laserdisc player and your Laserdisc, you asshole. Wow. It was a nice Sony system too. Like it was top of the line surround sound. I mean, it wasn't multi-channel. It was just standard Dolby Pro Logic. But I know that doesn't mean shit to you, rookie. But
okay, everybody else knows what you said.
But basically, that's where they took 2 channels of matrix sound and made it go out through 6 speakers. Basically, yeah.
I gotcha. But
it's the old version of surround sound before they came up with actual 5.1 and plus whatever surround sound.
But yeah, like I really feel like Tom said, home media really helped revolutionize the theater, because going to the theater was such a mega event compared to renting and watching.
I stopped going when they went digital because I hate going. I don't like a digital. It's like I might as well just watch it at home.
Yeah, it's the same thing, just on a big screen, bigger. Well, you got a bigger screen than us, so.
What year did digital first come around? Sorry, you say your thing first. I'll ask my question now.
No, I was gonna say it's just funny because everybody was so scared that, like with VHS, said it was going to kill the theater, and then everybody was so scared. Scared about that because that's like what's his name, Roddy McDowell. Was it Roddy McDowell from
yes.
Fright Night? him that he got in trouble for because he was collecting film rolls and he got in big trouble for that because they were
bootlegging scam,
bootlegging and stuff. And everybody's like, this is killing the theater. And you look at it now, you look at the streaming digital, that's really doing to the theater business what they all thought VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, 35 millimeter print reels were going to do to the theater. Streaming and digital
never
is
forget,
effectively killing it.
Theater is like Rocky, never count them out. Because I think things like Taylor Swift and other things have proven my point over the last couple of years.
You're not wrong.
But I think we should move on here because I think this will actually...
I love this conversation.
It'll bleed into the next conversation because I'm not going to pull a rookie on this one.
Okay, so it's right to you, Tom. What do you got?
It does, because you know exactly where I'm going with this. John Carpenter not only directed the film that you just showed, he also directed the movie I'm about to show. And much like Dementia 13, this is also his first feature. If you're familiar with the man's career, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
This movie is the precursor to Alien, written by the same writer, and directed by John Carpenter. And it is a fun little college movie that if you haven't seen it, now Rook, this is right up your alley. You will appreciate this movie. It is a weird movie. It's shot on 16 millimeter. Actually, this says a 35 millimeter print, but I think it was shot initially on 16, because it looks like it. But this is not the best Blu-ray in the world, but this is the best the movie's ever looked. This thing is heavily DNR'd, like heavily DNR'd, but it's still watchable. Considering this movie is very difficult to find, it's still very watchable. It got a great remastered soundtrack, actually, believe it or not. But the story is basically Alien. Really, but it's a comedy. And
did this came out before Alien?
It did. It was when they were in college. Dan O'Bannon wrote it. John Carpenter produced and directed it. Douglas Knapp was also the director of photography. He's another person who's involved in the John Carpenter world. Tommy Lee Wallace also worked on this as well. Who was another name who you might be familiar with. I believe Nick Castle also played a part in it as well. In the background, doing stuff for. You'll recognize a lot of the names in the credits. Is my point if you're a a John Carpenter fan. I don't want to give any of it away. That's the problem.
Well, you know what? That's actually a good sell for me.
It's a weird watch. Like you're going to be going like, what is this? Because it feels like a college student film. But basically, you got to get about 10 or so minutes into it before you realize what you're getting into. But it's the short version is it's these guys who are out on this mission in this ship called Dark Star. And they've been out here for years. And it kind of highlights just all the everyday, stupid, dumb, and mundane shit you'd have to deal with being in very tight quarters with somebody all the time. And they also have an alien on board. And the alien looks like and basically is just a beach ball with feet.
Beach ball with feet.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
I love it.
It's one of those movies I don't want to ruin any of the jokes in it because it's not like wall to wall funny, but it has like these few key moments that are so fucking hilarious that I don't want to spoil them for you. It does not do them justice to try and play them to you right now. Just check it out if you ever get a chance to. I don't know if it's on any streaming services, but it's a fun little, especially if you're somebody who's getting into John Carpenter, you got to see it.
Yeah, definitely.
Or an Alien fan, one or the other.
Yeah,
either or.
Always forget Dan O'Bannon made Aliens because I'm so used to.
He's in the movie too, and he plays one of the best roles.
Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah, he is, isn't he?
And basically, this is Alien meets 2001 meets Airplane before Airplane. It's not that kind of satire. I shouldn't say that. So it's not Airplane. It's a little bit of Dr. Strangelove. There you go. Actually, that's what it is. A spaced out epic of Strangelove proportions. That's the actual tagline at the top there.
Wow.
So yeah, that's don't expect like this special effects
I want to see this beach ball alien.
Honestly, it might be on YouTube. Let me look. Have you ever seen it, Greg?
I've seen it once years ago, but I know a lot of it, and I forget some of that what you were explaining. But I do have seen it. Deleted Scene says he thinks it's on Amazon.
It might be. I would say I don't see it on YouTube, but I'm sure it's got to be somewheres. You might even be able to get this Blu-ray still. I've had this for a while.
Dark Star. Okay.
Again, I wish I mean, it's got a few. It's got a commentary by a fan, interview with Alan Dean Foster, which is weird because we interviewed him ourselves.
Commentary by a fan, like does he pull some random
interview
guy who
with
liked the movie?
Yeah,
and
well,
then he just like talks about
super fan,
like,
so he probably has a website or something. And then a written intro by Dan O'Bannon. So as far as special features, there's not much to write home about. I think I got it real cheap back in the day. I don't know if it's still in print or not, to be honest with you. Because it's by this company called VC. I think it's VCI. Are they still in existence?
I don't know. But
this Blu-ray's from 2012, so
I thought maybe that was supposed to get a new release soon. I thought maybe I heard
it'd be
somewhere.
nice. It could definitely use an upgrade, like a 4K scan. I mean, because this definitely doesn't come from the negative. Because even it says here on the back, it says 35 millimeter theatrical print. See, I don't know if they know where the original negative is, because they made this when they were in college. And I can tell it was shot on 16 millimeter. There's no way this was shot on 35. Crap. What?
Well, the one you have is $14.99. It's still pretty cheap. But there's one here for $161.99. It looks like you made a special edition one, maybe from somewhere.
Send me a link just so I can see it. Yeah.
Okay.
There's like 3 people that like religiously follow this movie and still talk about it or something.
No, it's got well, I mean, as far as like in the John Carpenter pantheon, it's
region B2. So where the hell is the copy the link thing? Where's it at?
Oh, that's a region B one.
So, yeah,
I'm assuming
B2.
It's the same. It's probably the same scan. It's just
probably yeah. But it's as soon as I find the.
No worries.
I don't want to send a. I'll just copy that. I was trying to find the shorter link version.
Yeah. I'll just say put it in the private chat here.
Yeah.
I just want to see it.
But yeah, it looks like the one you got is. Yeah, I've never seen. I was just going through because it looks like.
There's like a making of it on there that's 117 minutes long. Huh.
Wow.
Looks French.
But yeah, you can get the one that Tom has for $14.99, which is actually a pretty good deal. So
there's 2 cuts of the movie on it. It says.
Okay,
so the US version is 83 minutes, and then they got a shorter cut on there too. So it must be like a foreign cut. Yeah, it's region B. I'm trying to translate the French. Of course, there's got to be a making of on it that I don't have, because there's nothing like that on here. Jerks. Get it used for $61.99.
There you go. It's cheaper than
I ain't paying that. It's not worth that.
Yeah.
It's not worth that.
But Steven found it for free on YouTube there if anybody wants to see it.
Oh, cool beans.
Good. All right, there you go. You're like, I gave money.
Oh, there you go, Rook. Now you can watch it.
Okay, yeah. I shall check that out. That sounds like
I may have to give it another watch myself. It's been a long time.
All right, whose turn is it now? Is it Rookie's turn? Because we're all kind of spun around here. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
We got into some big conversations about Gremlins and John Carpenter and stuff.
I got a big box set yet here.
Yeah.
Keep on doing that. But yeah, so this one I found at the FYE For Your Entertainment DVD shop. That's like the only place around me that sells any physical media anymore, really. So I just picked a random movie that said Michelle Rodriguez and Sigourney Weaver. I was like, yeah, Michelle Rodriguez is okay, I guess. Sigourney Weaver, okay, let me see what it is. Never seen it before. Called The Assignment. This is a weird movie. If I were to tell you the premise was Sigourney Weaver turns John Wick into a chick, would that sound cool or not?
No, I've heard about this movie.
This is really stupid. This is like, okay. So they have Michelle Rodriguez put on like a crappy beard, like a really crappy beard, and she's like supposed to pretend to be a dude for a little bit. I think they put a fake wiener on her too, like naked, and like they didn't have to try that hard to hide her breasts. So she's a man, huh? And it's like, just like that tiny tiny chick they're trying to disguise as a dude and whatever, and then it's like, oh, she ends up killing Sigourney Weaver's brother, and the brother is awful, but she is rich. She's like a super doctor or something. Monk is in this too. The guy who plays Monk is like what's his name?
Tony Shalhoub.
Shalhoub, yes, Shalhoub. He's in it, and he's like supposed to be a psychiatrist or something, or doing a psych eval, but he's like just telling her all this backstory that she knows, and they're like keep on keeping something secret from you a little bit. You like know they're like hiding something. It's like, okay, so what's going on here? What are we getting to here? So she wants revenge on Michelle Rodriguez as a dude. His name is Frank Kitchen. I don't know if they're trying to go off Frank Castle or something. I have no idea. A really, really weird choice.
That sounds horrible.
Here. Really lame. So they double cross him, and then he like wakes up and he's like, oh, what? And he looks in the mirror and he's like, what the fuck? And he looks like Michelle Rodriguez, and like, oh, boobs. Oh no, my thing's gone. The screams are just like, it's like no. It doesn't sound good at all. It's awful, pathetic acting from Michelle Rodriguez. I'm trying to think what she's actually good in. Then I think about her acting. I don't know.
She's not good in much of anything.
Not that great, is she?
She's not that good.
A lot of things, but I'm like, is she? And then like,
but is she a star in a lot of those?
Yeah, and seeing her naked body, she's not that attractive either. She's like, gross.
That's how they get you. At first, they're like, it used to be a man, but here now she's naked in front of you. But so like, whoop-de-doo, you've made a good penis.
But it's supposed to be like horrifying, like, oh no, like this dude that was like this killer is now like now he's surgically turned into a chick, and that's just like, oh no. And the reasoning, Sigourney Weaver leaves like $20,000 or something for him, and it's like, oh, you know, I'm giving you a second chance. You killed my brother, but now you're gonna have to live as a chick, and like thinks that he won't kill anymore or something. She's supposed to be trying to teach him a lesson, but does nothing to really set him in that direction at all. He goes back to this chick that he dated that she calls herself Johnny. I don't know the fuck why they chose this as their naming sequences for stuff. Twist is she also works for Sigourney Weaver later, and then Michelle Rodriguez tries to go on vengeance. I'm just trying to explain the stupid movie here. They goes on a vengeance killing spree of the people that betrayed him, her, whatever. Fucking call it now. Michelle Rodriguez. And there's no tension, there's no cool action scene. All it is Michelle Rodriguez finds people to kill and kills them. You know how in John Wick, I like the first John Wick movie. I don't really like the rest of them, but there's at least really good action sequences and scenes. Even if they're not like realistically done, they look cool and like have some appeal to them and how they do them and everything. It's just in this, and there's nothing cool about it. It just comes in and she shoots him.
Wow.
And it's just like, you get to the end of the movie.
Sounds like a horrible movie.
You get to the end of the movie. It is horrible. Don't watch it. You get to the end of the movie, and like Sigourney Weaver's like in a bathtub in the psych ward bathing. You don't see her naked, by the way. And then she just like lifts up her fingers, and these three fingers and these three were cut off. And it's like supposed to be like, oh, he cut off her fingers, huh? It's just like, what did that have to do with anything? She's a surgeon, but like, she was the description on the back says that like the doctor has some like agenda of her own, and I'm like, what the fuck was the agenda? Like, yeah, you turned him into the chick, but you made no real statement about anything or point about anything or showed anything interesting or showed any cool scene. I was just like, this is a fucking stupid movie. So I don't know. Don't get.
I don't think we'll be talking much about this one.
The concept itself is interesting if it was done by competent people. Like, you know, the horrific thing of like, again, if John Wick was like somehow turned into a chick, that'd be weird, but that'd be horrific. I'm sure they'd be able to treat it better and have it be kind of cool by the end. This is just like lame as fuck, dude.
Sounds horrible.
Don't bother. Don't recommend it.
First off, I don't like Michelle Rodriguez, so I probably never would have watched it.
Thank you. I'm trying to think of a movie that I think she did well in, and I mean, I guess I like that she got killed in most of the movies she's in, but as far as I think Resident Evil, you know, even that didn't really like her in that either. Avatar, no. Machete, no. Blood Rain, no.
It sounds like woke revenge porn.
It does.
Well, that's why I thought it'd be funny to mention, because like if anything, you could probably get some funny clips out of it, Tom. To like, you know, like the whole premise is that it'd be horrifying for a guy to be turned physically, like all the way into a chick, like that, like that's the premise, is that it's like, oh, that's not a good thing. So like they got that down. Then it's like there's nothing extra to that. It was just like, well, there you go. And again, it's Michelle Rodriguez naked, so it's like, I mean, the boobs are just like a little, you know, it wasn't some chick, big-breasted chick. Something that you can either do
about
something you can either do with humor or with horror.
The plot sounds like, okay, you're going to change somebody into a woman as a punishment, but it didn't really punish them.
Yeah,
Joke's on you. Now we get to
like,
take revenge out on all these other people.
And all the change was crappy fake beard to having it shaved. It's just like, what? Like, they didn't like have somebody else as the role, and then like, you know, like demorphize their body or some shit, make them weaker. The Assignment.
Oh, then it definitely is a woke movie. The Assignment Surgery, yeah, like reassignment surgery.
This was pre-main. It's like 2016 or 17, I think.
That's
it was like
right in the mix of it, my friend.
Right in the mix of it, but no. But you see, I don't even think it would count as a woke one because they don't have a point. There's no.
I do. I hear the point. I hear your exact point.
It's just.
It is fucking woke revenge porn. It's exactly what it is.
I guess that's the best way to describe it. But he still gets.
I'm a woman now, and you can't change that. And I'm going to take all my aggression out on everybody by killing them.
No. You see, they don't even address that he's like really a woman after he's turned into one. It's like
that's too obvious.
The girl that he hangs up with's like, you look different, and then is like just totally fine and treats it like nothing's different. Nobody like makes any extra comment.
Exactly.
He just tapes up the things. Yeah. He just tapes up the breasts, which are barely there anyway.
To educate at all.
Boy, and then it's just like,
I know, it's just
really lame.
Like
and I'm just like,
you can tell that's like that's what
they get. What
because they're normalizing that part of it. That part is fine. See, nobody paid attention. You know what I mean? You're answering your own question there.
Well, no, I'm saying
out about them becoming a woman. That would go against their agenda.
Oh, okay.
It's perfectly normal. They're a woman now. The person who changed them is the problem, and now they get to take revenge out on that person.
Well, I'm surprised that they'd have Sigourney Weaver be portrayed as the villain then, though, because she's the one that changed them.
That's not
right.
Wouldn't
that
I just can't believe she do this shit of a movie, but
yeah.
Well, I think she knows the director. The director was Walter
That's
Hill.
Why she did
Walter Hill.
Walter Hill directed that? What the fuck, Walter? What the fuck is wrong with you?
Walter Hill directed that.
48 hours, Walter Hill.
For real? That's crazy.
What's he done?
Shit recently, evidently.
Yeah.
Oh, for God's sake.
He's done lots of movies.
Walter Hill is a legend. Well, was a legend.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that's his movie.
Well, he did produce Alien Covenant and Prometheus, so
well, they can't all be perfect.
Yep, sorry.
Walter Hill is a legend in action films and shit like that. Man, what the fuck?
Nah. That's disappointing.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing down the mood, Rook.
Sorry, yeah, no, but you know, it's disappointing again because like I feel like you could do this story like even in the woke age and you can have it be interesting, but they just
none of it sounds very interesting at all.
It just sounds horrible.
It just that's what I'm saying. They don't even play into how horrific it is. Really, it just kind of lives like it's fine. And it's like
because that's the point, Rook. Like as soon as you started explaining this thing, I totally understood what they were doing with this.
Well, the worst they do is like Michelle Rodriguez drinks a lot and tries to go, can I get it back? No. Like her acting is so awful. Like it's hard to tell that I was like, you're just Michelle Rodriguez. You're not the dude that's like traumatized by losing his wang. You're just, I don't know. Anyway, I assume that's enough on that one. I don't know. I don't have anything else to say on it really. Don't watch it.
Let's try to pick the mood back up here again. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is something I watched over Halloween, the day before Halloween, I should say, because I had to fire it up. I watched The Crow. I actually had been putting off watching The Crow for a few years now. So
I watched
like
it early this month, actually.
I watched it on Devil's Night, my new favorite holiday. I watched it the night before. I had not watched it in probably about I want to say maybe 3 years. I had actually been putting it off for a while because I wanted to, give it a rest. So when I come back to watch it, it's like, it's sort of fresh to me. It's a great movie still to this day. Classic story. Eric Draven comes back to life thanks to The Crow after him and his fiance are killed for wanting to have a better life in their apartment and not get out. And so he comes back to set the wrong things right and take out the bad guys. And murder, mayhem, action, great story, great acting comes to life. It's a great movie. Brandon Lee does an amazing job, and sad what happened to him, but still to this day, it's a great movie. Can't rain all the time. Yeah, this is still my favorite line is moving you're dead, and he says, and I say I'm dead and I move. I love that line, just the way he delivers it. It's just, I love that.
You saw how awful goodness was.
Yes, dude, that scene gets me to, like, when I was watching it. That is some incredible acting, because when he's saying that to him and he's looking at him and he realizes that this is the dude they shot, killed, threw out a window, and raped his girlfriend.
I know you.
And he realizes it, and he's like, holy this is fucking, he's like, he's legitimately scared to death. Like, this isn't possible. What the hell's going on? And that's when he comes back to him, and the devil looked and saw how awful goodness was. You can't be real, man. This is a really real world. It's just incredible.
You can't come back in the really real world.
Yeah, that is an incredible scene. It's perfect acting.
Forgot his name, but he's a great actor.
Oh yeah, he's in
the Warriors and
Longest Yard remake too. The Warriors and what is that guy's name? I should know his name. Is it Michael? No, that's
Walter Hill did The Warriors also.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's how disappointed I am.
Yeah, I can't believe he did this assignment. Well, you got to bring back that up again. We're trying to talk to Crow.
I've seen The Crow, actually, surprisingly. I only remember like the third act, I think. Was there a huge... I might be getting this confused with another movie. Was there like a fight scene on rooftop? And
yeah. This is
like
almost a damn near perfect movie.
Like, this is one of those ones I need to rewatch because I vaguely remember this film. Honestly,
amazing soundtrack, great gothic atmosphere, great performances. Ernie Hudson is so good in this. I forgot Tony Todd was in this movie. That's because I forgot he's one of the bad guys.
Fuck him dead.
Yeah, that guy. Let me demonstrate for you. Fuck him dead. And then one guy, she's supposed to be your sister. Well, you don't see the resemblance.
Well, you don't see the family resemblance.
She's my father's daughter. Fucking weird people, man. I love this. Like the crew, it's like it is perfect. Like the names Tintin and T-Bird and Fun Boy and Skank, and it's like they got all these weird names.
Skank's dead.
Skank.
Yeah. What's all this happy horse shit? It is such a good movie, and like Brandon Lee is
endlessly
perfect.
quotable,
endlessly.
Was there other versions of this movie, or like others in this franchise or something?
There are,
because I feel like I might have seen some of those on it, and like when I was trying to see this one,
discuss those.
I think no, okay, that's the thing. I think they're on TV.
One of the worst experiences I ever had in my life was going to see Crow City of Angels.
Oh, I hated City of Angels.
I think I've seen some of those. Okay,
and I'm like, what the fuck did I just pay to see?
Yeah, no,
so
I know that.
And then there was two more after that were straight to video plus a TV series.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes more sense because I saw the very end of The Crow that you're talking about, and I wanted to see that movie. But then, like,
the original
other
Crow
movies
is
were
a
coming
masterpiece.
Up.
The sequels
other movies
are
were coming
horrible.
up, and I was like, "What the hell? Why did I even want to see this movie?" And like, I don't even know why I wanted to watch it anymore. So I haven't seen the full movie yet, but it's the ending or the third act kind of wanted me to go see the rest of the movie.
Oh, you got to see the whole movie. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't mind The Crow Salvation. It's got Walter Goggins in it.
I think that's one of the better ones, if I remember
That's probably
right.
the best sequel.
What is that one? What's the gimmick on that? That's not the one with Edward Furlong, right?
No, that's not the one with Edward Furlong.
So it'd be the third one. Yes. Okay. So that's the one.
Yeah.
And that's got the guy from.
It's got the guy that's starring. I don't know.
Is the guy not Angel or whatever his name is from?
No, it's not. David Boreanaz is the one with Edward Furlong.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say. Okay, so
yeah,
Salvation I think is the one I do think is okay.
Salvation is one that's probably the best sequel. It's got Walter Goggins. It's got what's her name, Mary Jane from the Spider-Man movies. What was her name? Kirsten Dunst is in it.
Dunst,
it's got what's his name from Tremors, Fred Ward.
He's
in it. I don't think the guy that the star was famous, but that's where it's like he's sentenced to death for killing his girlfriend, and her dad was a cop or something, and he didn't do it, and so like they fry him and execute him, and he comes back to life.
Okay, so
yeah.
Okay, yeah, I got this is the original.
Yeah, I got that too.
2-disc that they did back in the day.
I got that. Yeah, it's a great movie.
And this is the one you're talking about, yep.
Yeah, that's one. That's probably my favorite sequel.
Yeah, that one's a better one.
It's the best one, but
avoid this one.
Yeah, I got that one too. It's horrible.
And then here's the cool thing is these are the only other two that I know that are on Blu-ray. So it's like, I guess if you're gonna put two on Blu-ray, besides the first one, 2 and 3, and then they just kind of ignore the Edward Furlong one. So
yeah.
That's an import set too. You can't even. I don't even know if you can get any of the other Crows on Blu-ray in the U.S.
I don't think you can.
So I think this is. You can find the extended cut of City of Angels out there in the web in certain places, but see, and I don't think they carried over all the special features because I remember Crow City of Angels having a 2-disc set like this one did when it first came out. I think.
Did it?
I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
I remember
all they have on here is behind the scenes featurette, and that's it. And then on Crow Salvation it says production design featurette. And there's a ton of shit on this. That's why I kept the DVD. Probably.
Yeah, I kept my Crow DVD too. I still have.
I don't even know why I kept this. To be honest,
I still have that one too.
Actually, I think I know why I kept it because I got it for free probably at the old video store I worked.
Yeah, I think your cover's different than mine.
That's the old rental cover. That might be why. I don't know. Or which one?
For the Edward Furlong one.
Yeah, this is the original release when it came out on video. This is still when Disney still owned them.
No, your cover is the same. I just checked real quick.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is The Crow based on a comic?
Yes.
Okay, that's cool.
Yours looks nicer than mine. I got dust all over everything.
Was he like? Was it like one of those Dark Horse or like non-Marvel or DC comics?
Yeah, it's not Marvel or DC. I don't think it's Dark Horse though. I'm not sure who did the comic, and it was written by James O'Barr. He wrote it after his girlfriend was killed, so it's kind of a story about that.
Okay,
so. And it's,
yeah, it was an indie comic. I don't know if it was it Imprint that released it. It might have been Dark Horse.
Check real quick.
Somebody in the chat will know otherwise.
Yeah, of course.
The only other good thing about the second one is Iggy Pop's in it, and Iggy Pop was one of the body stand-ins for the idea of what the Crow was based upon in the original. It
says Caliber Comics did it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I got a really nice collector's edition book.
Ryan says there's a new. Oh, go ahead. No.
Oh, the soundtrack for City of Angels is way better than the movie.
Yeah, Tyrell likes the City of Angels.
City of Angels has its fans, and I think a lot of that is because of that. There's a early cut or whatever of the film that's supposedly better. I've never actually watched it all. I've got it on a drive somewheres. But it's like I don't know, 20, 30 minutes longer.
Yeah.
Supposedly Harvey and Bob went in and butchered the hell out of it.
I just remember thinking, this is not the same movies I saw the first time around. It was horrible. It's just like,
well, the second one was just ill-conceived to start with. They were trying to cash in on the success of the first one. It's like, why? Brandon Lee's dead. You're not going to be able to do it again. Yeah. I get it. It's something you can keep kind of reusing the concept, but their mistake was they should have went away from the idea that the Crow had to look the same every time. That's the problem. And I get it. It's kind of a trademark, but that was Brandon Lee's Crow. He chose that for that reason. The second film really stretches it, and the reason they have him look like the first Crow in the second film is because the little girl Sarah from the first film is now grown up. Like it jumps 10 years or whatever. Like
and she looks nothing like her.
Nothing like her, and she's the one who does his makeup.
Yeah.
And so I can let that go, but then after that, they really kind of push.
Well, that's why I kind of like Salvation was decent because they did sort of try to copy the makeup.
He does have his own makeup, but it's different.
It wasn't makeup. It's just where they burned his skin from the mask they put on him when they electrocuted him in the
Edward
chair.
Furlong one is the worst of the bunch. The City of Angels just pissed me off. I mean, if maybe I saw the extended cut, the original cut, I might not hate it as much, but I was just so pissed when I went to see it. It was one of the first times I remember wanting to walk out of a movie.
Yeah, it was bad. I don't know if I'm excited for the Bill Skarsgård one. I have to see footage of it first. Plain and simple, because
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. Originally, Tom Hiddleston was going to be the Crow, then Jason Momoa was going to be the Crow, then we finally got Bill Skarsgård, and then some of the other cast members they've announced I'm not too thrilled about that are in the movie. And you really shouldn't be remaking I mean, I get it that like Tyrell says the Crow in the comic book is different each time. It's kind of like the Guyver, if you know about the Guyver.
It is, but they didn't really go with that concept too well in the movies. They all look the same and all that kind of business to a point, other than the Salvation one, and it's just kind of
So I don't think they should be remaking the Crow. I get it that I know they changed a lot of stuff for that first movie because I think in the original comic,
wouldn't it be cool if you have one that's more like a punk and one that's more like whatever ninja, and one that's more like they all don't need to be. The idea is sound, somebody who's done wrong and they get to come back and set it right. Perfect, but they don't all have to look like Eric Draven.
Yeah, they can have different makeup styles. It says Don Ranger Power says fancy vid art uncensored raid. Hello, Greg Rook and all. Well, hello once again, Tom. Hope everyone is well this evening. All right,
cool. You're well.
Raid, what's up? I hope you're well as well.
So whose turn are we on now?
I think it's back to you, Tom.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about dark films.
All right.
I have such sights to show you.
You got it, didn't you?
I wanted it.
Please, no more tears.
Oh, such a waste of suffering. Okay, well, let's go through this.
All right.
An amazing new box set from Arrow. They announced Hellraiser was coming to 4K, 4 years ago now?
A long time ago, yeah.
We finally not only get part 1, but we get 4 films this time. The last time they released these would have been the Scarlet box set that had the first 3 films in it, which was a bit more of a, I'll say it up front, it's half better packaging and half not. Okay. For those who remember, it comes off it looks kind of like the box, sort of ish.
Yeah,
comes off like that. Then you got all the movies and a book all here, stacked on top of each other, and the movies are in these cardboard cases, plus a bonus disc, and we'll get to that. Okay. So if you have this, you got one of the best sets out there. Keep that in mind. This is a companion piece to that. Let's not say it's the same thing. It's a companion piece. The movies look amazing. Arrow always does a great job with their transfers, and I expected no less with this one. and it delivers. The first film looks great. Second film looks great. Third film and fourth film actually look really, really good. Now the third film, you get the unrated edition, which is weird. I don't know why it's an unrated edition, because there's not really much added to it. It's really just extensions of scenes, but they don't have those scenes anymore. So they're literally like off the laser disc and they're inserted in the film. So you're going from 4K and then all of a sudden you go to a 4x3 box of a laser disc scene in between here and there, but it's not very often. And here you go, just to kind of see it. And this is one of the rings. I don't like that it's housed like
the fold out.
I wish it was 4 separate things. That'd be nice. But the art is okay, and it has this nice little like kind of like the Lionsgate slip cases that go with. And it actually builds into the whole box itself. So you put the slip back on, and that covers up the skull, and that adds, the skeleton behind. It's really tight to get on. That's another thing I don't like.
Yeah, sometimes it can be. You got to line it.
It is a little bitch.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so then you see it comes over the skull, and then you slide it back into the box with the face forward, which sucks. So that's like you want to put it out the other way just by instinct, but no, it goes in that way, and then it fills in the spots on there. And then the book you get here is the same book that you got in here, just different cover. So otherwise, it's the exact same book.
Same book.
Exactly.
Okay. So if you got lucky with the first one, set of 3 there.
But you're gonna have to hang on to that because we're gonna get to the downsides now.
All right.
Downside is they have removed the Leviathan documentaries, which is one of the most extensive documentaries and the best documentaries. Or documentary. It's kind of split up over the discs. It's an amazing documentary, and I don't know why they dropped it from this altogether. It is not on here anymore.
It's weird.
What they've replaced it with is a bunch of these one-on-ones with authors that are gay, lesbian, bisexual, whatever, and it's fine. Everybody's known Clive Barker's openly gay forever, etc., etc. I don't really have a problem with that, but when you're sacrificing Leviathan for that shit that I'm never gonna watch, watch. I don't give a fuck what some no-name gay author thinks about it. I don't give a shit if he's gay or not, unless it's Stephen fucking King. I don't care. Right? Like it's somebody I know, fine. But these are people I've never even fucking heard of before. And all they're talking about is the LGBTQ aspect of these films. And I already got that way back when they first came out. I don't need a big, huge fucking to-do. And I'm not kidding. Like, they're like 50-minute, like, sit-down talks. And shit, there's like 2 or 3 of them each on each of the films, except for the third one and fourth one. And I'm just like, this is a waste of fucking space. And I'm really disappointed. Now, some of the special features that were on the bonus disc are carried over here onto Hellraiser 3 and 4, which I'm fine with. Why isn't Leviathan on here though? That's what has me pissed.
I wonder who helped make the documentaries with them. Was it
maybe they lost the license on it? That's very possible. Wondering. I can accept that. That's fine. So you're gonna have to hang on to this just for that. That's the sad part. Is just for Leviathan. That's the only thing that's different as far as I can tell that I've went through so far. But I mean, there's so much shit on these. I mean, these both are such. That's why I say they're kind of like without. I wish they would release Leviathan on its own. Then I can ditch. I don't really want to ditch it because it's a nice set. But I mean, but I don't have to put this one on my shelf because otherwise, this definitively would be the better version because you get all 3 of the first films, which is in here. Plus, you get 4, and you also get the work print. That's the word I was looking for earlier.
Yeah, work
part 4. Now, let you know that it is in VHS quality with the timestamp at the bottom throughout the entire film. Now, my only gripe with that is since they did the whole Laserdisc inserts of Hellraiser 3 unrated, why didn't they reconstruct part 4 with the work print with the scenes they had in 4K? Then it's more watchable. This way is kind of like, it's there, but I probably won't watch it but once and never come back to it again. For Hellraiser 3, the unrated version, that's probably the version I'll always watch. Even though a lot of the scenes are just bits and bobs here and there that don't really, I don't even know why they're cut out in the first place other than pacing maybe. because there's only like 1 or 2 scenes that I could see that were actually like unrated scenes. But either way, like that was my only gripe besides losing Leviathan. Otherwise, highly recommend. There is another version of this that has Chatterer on the front.
Chatterer. Yeah,
that's more limited edition, but I preferred this one, so that's why I got this one.
Yeah, I like the Pinhead.
And I think the Chatter box or whatever they're calling it might already be sold out. I'm not sure, but I think you can still get this one pretty readily. But yeah, if you haven't updated with the Scarlet box set, definitely can recommend this. Maybe Leviathan's out there on YouTube or something like that. But it's sad because it's like altogether Leviathan's like 3 or 4 hours long of just behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
Didn't have room for another sleeve to have the disc on or something.
They didn't put a bonus disc in because you don't get any Blu-rays whatsoever. These are only 4K discs, so that's another thing. They could have just put a bonus disc in here. I don't know why they didn't.
That's what I was saying. With 4Ks, does that take up more space on a disc? So there's less like runtime you can have on one.
Movies do, yes, but the rest of the stuff is the same amount basically. But with 4K discs, they can do I think triple layer discs now, which I can't remember if they're 100 or 100 so over 100 gigs I think on a disc. So there's no real excuse for space.
Triple layer. I mean more triple space. Or something?
Yeah, because like the DVDs, they only got up to dual layer. Same thing with Blu-ray; they only got up to dual layer. I think you could fit a total of 50 or what? Somebody remind me because on the dual layer disc, I think it's 50 gigs on a Blu-ray.
Is it 50 gigs or is it like 80 now?
It might be 80 now. You might be right.
I can't remember. I know some.
I'm drawing a blank for some reason.
I would also want to say 62 for some reason. I don't know why. But now see, here's the thing with me and the Hellraisers. I've never seen past 3. I've never seen Bloodlines. I've never seen any of the ones past 3 at all. So I was really hoping to get that soon so I can at least get to the part 4. But I'm glad to know that the scans look incredible. And Arrow always does great work on that front. So. Now we do have a question from Brian Barth who says, what are the best Hellraiser and the worst Hellraiser? I would have, from what I've seen, part 1 is the best, and part 2 was incredible as well too.
1 through 4 are great. 5 is okay. 6 is forgettable because I can't remember which one that is. 7 is the one that's the standout because Stan Winston directed that one. And here's the thing with all the Hellraiser sequels post 4. Is that all of them are just other scripts repurposed as a Hellraiser script?
I thought there was only 4 Hellraiser movies.
No, there's like
there's a lot more after that. They went straight to video. Part 4 is pretty decent. Part 4 is where is technically known as Pinhead Goes to Space, but that's kind of a misnomer, or not a misnomer. I don't know the word I'm looking for. It's kind of a
misleading.
It's misleading when it comes to like all the other in space movies.
The only thing of Leprechaun 4
because it takes like place for various time, right?
Because that's the thing, and when you find out what part 4 was supposed to be, and that was supposed to be the franchise for the next few movies, you're kind of depressed because it actually is a pretty good movie, but it feels so compressed. Like because you basically get 3 stories crammed into one. Because the idea is these 3 stories that were supposed to take place over 3 different time periods. And it's about the family of the inventor or the guy who built the first box.
Yeah.
And it's got this really great scene where the inventor of the box is all upset because he's like, I made this horrible thing that is a doorway to hell. And his doctor friend's like, well, first of all, I don't believe in heaven and hell.
Right.
Like, but if I did, by pure logic, if you create a box that can open a door to hell, well, then you should be able to create a box that closes the door to hell. So the whole thing is built upon the idea that he can make a box that will undo that, but he doesn't have the technology yet to do it. So it's passed down from generation to generation, and it's set in 3 different time periods. And it was supposed to be 3 different movies.
Mm-hmm.
But they crammed it all into one. The director, who was it? Who directed? Kevin Yeager, who's most well known for special effects stuff. He was the director. He ended up leaving the project, and it's now directed by Alan Smithy because of that. And I don't know if you know the significance of that or not. But
yes, I do. I
know you do. I don't know if Rook does. He should.
Rook, do you know about Alan Smithy?
That sounds like a funny name. I have no idea who that is.
It's basically the name that gets put on a movie when a director leaves and they win to get their name taken off of a movie. So the studio just put Alan Smithy as the director. Alan Smithy has directed like 100 movies.
Huh.
Actually, probably more than that.
I own a few.
It's not
Alan
one
Smith
person though.
movies.
It's basically a moniker put on a movie when the director does not want to be associated with it.
Yeah, for various reasons.
I gotcha.
Yeah, which one is Cavill in?
I think that's 7.
7?
See, and 7's cool because it's and that's the thing is once you get to the sequels, they're more like they all become like kind of like cop procedural stories usually, except for Hellworld, which is more of a cyber story. If I remember right? But 7 was a little bit better one because it's about this. I think she's an investigative reporter, not a cop, and she's investigating this like witchcraft cult. And they just changed the script where obviously they're raising Hellraiser instead of just being a witchcraft cult or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other one that's okay is they have Christy come back in. I think that's part 8. Maybe that's the one that has Cavill in it. Actually, I think that's part 8. And that might be the last one with.
Yeah, I think
Douglas
Doug
Bradley is
Doug Bradley.
But then the one after that, Revelation or whatever fuck it was called, was horrible. And then Judgment, on the other hand, I don't know if you've seen that one yet, Greg.
No, I think that's when you were telling me about. I was wanting
surprisingly
to watch it.
really good.
Yeah.
No, I get it. It's a kind of a rip off of 7-ish in a way. I mean, it has a lot of those vibes, but what's great about it is the new character that Gary Tunnicliffe created that he plays himself called the Auditor. And I love that character. And I've told him you should just if you can take that character on its own, if you own the rights to it, just make a movie or a show out of that.
Right.
Basically what the Auditor does is he's a guy who comes in and he goes through your entire list of sins. And you're being audited like a tax auditor.
Yeah.
Basically, it's really kind of an interesting.
Got to return the car you borrowed from the devil. You're going to be taken away. Or something like that.
Well, you raped 3 women in 1962 and you killed 2 people, and but I mean, they give you the extensive breakdown of it all.
Yeah.
And then your sins are all written on the skin of other dead sinners and then eaten by these witches. It's really fucked up, but it's really kind of just inventive and cool. And you kind of go through this whole thing where these people are kind of on trial, but it's in like this very uncomfortable room, like when you're being questioned by the cops. You got this guy just sitting there with a typewriter typing up all your indiscretions and things that you've done, and it's just really nuts and insane. It's a really cool kind of concept, and the character he created, the way he looks and everything is really cool. It's a really cool makeup job and everything. It's really cool.
My coworker, who's like 17 or so, he hasn't seen that many movies really, but he has seen like all the Hellraiser stuff and really wants me to see those at some point.
They're not different. They start out. The first movie is very different from the rest. See, the first movie is kind of just getting you introduced to this idea of what the box is, what it does, who the Cenobites are, and the type of people who would want to bring them into the world and how the rules work. Then from there on out, the second film is very much fantasy oriented more than horror.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a really good movie, but it's just a kind of a shift. And then the third film kind of takes it more back to horror. Then the fourth film is more of a historical, kind of told over 3 different time periods in the modern time, future, and in the past. But then from there on out, they just become kind of generic stories that have Pinhead crammed into them.
Yeah,
the mystique of it kind of gets drowned out
until you get to Judgment, which was actually written as a Hellraiser movie, and so was Revelations, but they changed Gary's script so much that he disowned it.
I gotcha. Would you say it's like as much as there's like body stuff to it, is it like quite psychological to it? You think? I've seen like Event Horizon, and for some reason I assumed that there was like
more
a connection
element to it. It's a lot of hooks and BDSM kind of stuff in a way. I don't know how to explain it. You showed us, was it you that showed us Strange World not too long ago?
Strangeland.
Strangeland.
Yeah.
Yes. If you've seen Strangeland, there's a lot of that. You'll kind of be like, oh, okay.
People are super into the pain and stuff and scenes, and
that's kind of the whole point of the Cenobites.
The fine line between pain and pleasure.
They're that fine line between pain and pleasure, exactly. But then they'll tear your ass apart. Like that's the penance you pay for calling them. They'll show you and give you all the answers, but they're going to drag your ass back to hell with them.
Okay, because like I saw one clip one time from one of the Hellraiser movies, no idea which one, and I was just like, what the fuck? Like he was just like Pinhead's like talking to a room of people, and then he's like, "Shall we begin?" That's where I got one of the clips from for my intro thing where they say "Shall we begin" all the time, and then he just like magically all these like knives and things in the room just start killing everyone. I was just kind of like,
Yeah,
what the fuck is this?
well, the
like,
Cenobites are basically like Hell's Angels. Okay, so they're like, but they're like former people, but they're like husks of their former selves, and they're basically twisted by whatever it is that, you know, and that's where the inventiveness of them comes in. Pinhead's got pins all over him, and
I guess my problem,
and you got all the other ones that are different kind of versions of whatever kind of torture device they are.
I guess what type of mind frame should I maybe go in with it? Because like I have this mindset that like people are trying to stop him, and like, but he has like magic that like you can't just like stop it. Seems
Usually
like,
it's somebody called him to begin with. Like that's kind of the point, or they're tricked into calling him to being. Think of it kind of like a twisted Beetlejuice. Like it's usually somebody who's seeking some kind of answers they can't find, and they're kind of getting deep into like. It's not quite like people are up. Like in the first film, it's the main character's uncle who gets involved in it, and he's like this really fucked up dude who's into really
Uncle
rough.
Frank.
Uncle Frank is into like rough sex and, you know, just heavy drugs and always running from the cops and all this stuff. So he's looking for the ultimate thrill. You know what I mean? And so the box is kind of like the ultimate thrill. It's like the ultimate drug. It's the rush you can't get from any drug around kind of thing. It's kind of the way it's presented. And when you open the box, you get what Greg was saying, the ultimate pain and pleasure at the same time, and you get all the answers of everything you ever were curious about. But the penance you pay is you get drugged back to hell and tore apart. And when you're put back together, you're either tore apart in hell forever and just, you know, tortured forever, or if you reach a certain plane, you become a Cenobite yourself. And if you become a Cenobite yourself, then you're usually whatever was the cause of your death plays into whatever you're reincarnated as. But you don't remember your former life usually after a while and stuff like that's kind of what gets played into in the second film. Is that Christy, the main character, she kind of tricks Pinhead into destroying himself by reminding him of who he used to be when he was a human, kind of thing. Because at that point, he's been a Cenobite for so long, basking in the pleasure and pain of hell. It is like it's presented like a drug, basically. Like you just become overly consumed with it, basically. And the whole trick is to be able. The trick of the first film is that Frank figured out how to beat him and come back. See, and that's what pisses him off. See, as he gets out of hell.
And then, like,
you're not supposed to get out.
And technically, like Pinhead and the Cenobites, they're not the bad guys of the first movie. They're not, you know, they're not supposed.
They're
to
not really bad guys until the fourth film, really, or third film, kind of.
They're really not the focus of the film of the first movie at all.
Yeah, I should probably wait to watch them before I ask more questions because for some reason I thought like, are they the type? Are they people that could like be like negotiated with? Like, okay, don't kill me for 10 years.
Or whatever. Or mention that because the first film is built on a whole negotiation. Christy opens the box, and they're about to take her, and she says, "Wait a minute. What if I told you one of yours got away?" And he's like, "That's not possible."
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, my Uncle Frank came back," and he's like, And so she makes a deal with them that if they let her live, she'll give him Uncle Frank because they're pissed that Uncle Frank got out.
Okay, yeah, because that makes it a little interesting, a little more interesting.
And then the catch there is he was sleeping around with Christy's stepmother. And she was bringing, because the whole thing is you have to keep killing people to keep bringing them back. So like first the blood just brings him back, and then he needs more and more and more to keep becoming more human again. So he starts with like this grotesque creature kind of thing, and then it just starts growing more and more muscles, and you know, and then finally he's everything but skin, you know, basically.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my last question before that I'll have for it, I guess, is for some reason I don't know if somebody told this to me or said this, but like was part of the idea of like Event Horizon supposed to intertwine with Hellraiser and like the Hell World or something, the pain or whatever.
That's what I know of. I think that's more of what's his face who did the Cthulhu stuff. Lovecraft. I think it's more Lovecraftian.
They might have just had like a theory, and I just heard it somewhere.
I mean, there's a touch of Lovecraft in Hellraiser, but not.
Well, because like there's like an orgy sex scene of like pain or something.
A lot of people say Event Horizon is like a Hellraiser.
There's not as much sex in Hellraiser as you would think. It's just the overtness of it. It's the thing is with like the Cenobites is they look like they'd be right at home in a leather bar.
Right. At the Blue Oyster. No, it's kidding.
Basically, yeah, like a real rough leather bar they would fit right in.
Right.
You know the bar in a Police Academy where they send them two guys?
They'd have to be more hardcore than that.
Yeah, I figured they got that. Yep. They go, we'll take you to a better place.
I have not seen past 3, and I've always wanted to, and I don't really know why I stopped.
2 and 1 are the best, of course. 4 is a lot better than it gets credit for. Like I said, 5 is a meh. 5 and 6 you can almost probably skip over. 7 is the best of the sequels until Judgment. I'm trying to remember which one Christie is in. I think that's Hellworld Part 8. And I think that's also the same one that Henry Cavill's in, if I'm not mistaken. But I've only seen the sequels maybe once or twice a piece. 7 is the one I've seen the most just because it's the most rewatchable one. Yeah, Leviathan is very Lovecraftian. Yep.
Yeah, Leviathan.
Yeah.
I think The Mist is like the only Lovecraftian thing I might have seen.
Well, that's Stephen King. Yeah, Stephen King is basically, was inspired by Lovecraft and Poe, so that's like his own thing there, really. So
okay.
All right. Well, that's my I can recommend it. But unfortunately we lose the Leviathan documentary that I very disappointed in, but
yeah. Well, good night, Brian Bart. Thanks for hanging with us. Yeah, I hate when they do that. Was like in today's world, like everybody knew Clive Barker was gay back in the day. It was like nobody cared. And today, now it's like, here's this author that's going to explain to you why it's so gay. It's like, I don't.
Not just that. It's like, okay, great. Yeah.
I mean, I like the movies. I don't give a shit.
YouTube video. Like that's my problem with that. Like,
yeah. But what do you got for us, Rook? What's your final pick, I guess?
Well, it feels really weird following up something like that with Heavyweights. It feels like a very tonal clash there with Hellraiser to Disney Fun.
Paul Feig had a lot to do with that movie.
What was that?
Paul Feig has a lot to do with that movie.
He's in the motherfucker.
Oh yeah, he's the skinny dude. Oh yeah. The director of like the Mighty Ducks and stuff in this one. This was one when I was younger that was like a fun one to come on here and there.
I think Paul Feig was one of the writers, and he's also one of the as you said, he's the one skinny counselor.
Yeah, skinny counselor guy with it. I don't know, it's a fun one of its time. Ben Stiller's in it. He seems like a version of White Goodman before he got to the Global Gym or something. Like this camp didn't work. I'm gonna go make my own gym now or something. Like
it's sort of the way that character comes from.
Crazy fitness guy and like hanging off a branch off a cliff and stuff. He's like talking all these fat kids trying to hike. It's kind of funny thing. It's back in the day where you can make fun of people for being fat without it being a huge deal.
It's not body shaming.
Right, exactly. It's kind of fun. You can have some humor with it. Just simple scenes, like he's just walking home from school at the end of summer. He goes by a lemonade stand, puts a bunch of money on the thing, and just takes the whole pitcher of lemonade, just pours it down. He's like, yeah, he's a thirsty boy. It's funny shit like that. And then he's like, I'm going to fat camp. What? I'm not fat.
This legitimately is like a weird tonal shift from like Hellraiser, Desire and Pain to
I know. I'm like,
jumping on branches, fat kids drinking lemonade.
Yeah. This feels so like I want to follow up now something more because I'm like these very different comparisons of
my final pick. I should have went because my final pick matches.
Fat kid drinking lemonade, a whole pitcher.
It has the kid from Mighty Goldberg in it.
Yeah.
Kenan Thompson is in it a little. Where's the quote? They came, they saw, they conquered from? Is that from another movie?
Yeah, that's from like multiple movies. What is that from? Now you're gonna have me.
Well, no, I say that because I've heard that in The Paper Brigade, another older movie, but that's obviously from something else they're referencing. I don't know what the fuck it's from. So I'm just quoting on the back. Just
I'm trying to
figure
figure
out. I conquered. Is that like a war quote or something?
Vicky is Latin. Julius Caesar supposedly. Yeah.
Julius Caesar. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I guess I kind of just want to go to your take now because that's like.
I watched that movie for the first time in years when I can't remember if it was on Netflix or Disney Plus when I first got it. And I was like, oh, I haven't seen that in years. And I remember watching it and getting into it. I'm like, it's all right.
It's kind of funny.
And then I remember,
it's not great, but it's
I'm like, wait a minute, is that Paul Feig? And then I lost my shit because I'm like, oh, fuck, it's Paul Feig.
Were you ever a fan of him pre Ghostbusters 2016?
I didn't mind The Heat, and I thought Bridesmaids was okay. I thought Spy was very overrated. I thought a lot of people are giving this way too much credit.
I got you.
But then once he did Ghostbusters, that's what pissed me off. I'm like, if he would have just kept doing his thing and not remade anything, I wouldn't give a fuck who he was.
Yeah, like I feel like one like this is harmless. Like doesn't really.
Oh yeah, that's very much like just like a Mighty Ducks ripoff kind of thing at that time. It was fine.
Like one. It's like what you think they do in the summer.
Was Roman. To answer your question, all White says it's Roman.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. It sounds very Roman.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Roman. It's
okay, yeah, that makes more sense. I think that makes sense.
It's
that's
from
Roman.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But the thing I think helps with that more is what's his name has I think helped write it before he went all crazy himself. What's his name? He did that movie we talked about not too long ago.
Stephen Brill is the director of this one. I don't know if that's it.
No, I'd be one of the writers.
What was his name?
He did the movie with Judd Apatow.
Judd Apatow.
Oh, that's the other one. Yeah.
Which that was
he's one of the Judd Apatow people.
Yeah, he's one of those. But I do enjoy. I have seen that. I actually have that on Blu-ray.
I don't know if I bought the Blu-ray or not. I think after I found out he was in it. Is that what I did? Did I get it on Blu-ray? No, I don't think I have it here.
Oh, I will tell you this: that movie holds a little special place in my heart because me and my brothers were fat kids. So
I'm still a fat kid.
Yeah, well, me too. And we watched it when we were kids, young kids in the '90s. So we always loved it in the '90s. So yeah, I've seen it. I enjoy it. It's good. It's one of the.
I liked it at the time, but I rewatched it. I thought it was okay, and then like I said, I just started losing my shit with Paul Feig.
Yeah.
Vendetta.
But yeah,
that's about all I got on that one. I guess I'm curious what yours is now. I want to go back to that tone.
You want to go? You want me to go to me now already?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, the chat's like, it's a fun movie, sure.
We're on our last pick here. We're actually doing good for time.
Mine would have sort of helped flow with the Hellraiser talk because it is an Arrow release and it's something. It's not like horror, but it's sort of in the same vein because I have Elvira.
Elvira.
I watched this one. This is from
before Arrow. She was lesbian and all wackadoo.
Yeah. Before she went a little, off the rails herself.
That was a classic, man.
It's still such a good movie. It still holds up. I just had a blast with this. So essentially this is Elvira, the character of Elvira. She quit.
Imagine seeing that in the TV cut for the first time. That was my experience. Sorry, go ahead. My bad.
No, go ahead. Go ahead if you want to talk about.
No, that was just it. All the good shit cut out, and I still enjoyed it. And then so I saw it on video. I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah. We get a little boobage. But yeah, it's a good movie. It's like the character of Elvira. She quits or basically loses her job doing her TV hosting, where Elvira's Maccabee or whatever that she used to do on NBC. She finds out she has a great aunt who has passed away and she's living or something in the will. So she goes to this small town. I believe it's up in Maine. I just watched it and I can't remember where the town is supposed to be. I think it's up in Maine somewhere. And turns out her aunt leaves her whole house and this cookbook. Turns out the cookbook is a spell book, and her great aunt's brother wants the book. He wants to spell. He's evil. She's in this small town where everybody looks down on her, very like conservative type town, and she basically sets the town ablaze, and she finds out her ancestry about being a witch, and her uncle's a warlock, and hell breaks loose and stuff. It's a fun movie. I mean, you really got to see it because Elvira was at her heyday at this. The comedy was on all cylinders. It was great. It's a great like 80s type movie, a great blend of like horror movies and cheese and comedy all together. I love the line when she bumps her head and the guy goes, how's your head? And she goes, I've had no complaints yet. And he goes, what? She goes, oh, it's fine. So, it's got some great double entendres in it.
That's what I mean. Yeah, all the good jokes are cut out on TV.
All the good stuff, yeah. It's a fun movie. I still have a blast with it today. I mean, Cassandra Peterson may have changed. Yeah, Cassandra Peterson may have changed, but I still have Elvira from the 80s. So
what's funny is how the conservatives were the ones that were oppressive back then.
Right. Because like they all like, oh, you can't wear makeup, don't hang around that woman with her boobs hanging out and stuff. And now it's like it's reversed, where it's like conservatives like, yeah, we want people like that walking around. We don't give a shit.
Doing that for the male gaze.
Yeah, she did it
for her assets.
Yeah. She was.
People bought beer because of those boobs.
Mm-hmm. They did.
Every Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
People, you remember that every fucking Halloween they had her out there selling Bud Light or whatever it was. I can't remember. Was it Bud Light? Coors or Bud Light? Yeah, I couldn't remember which one, but yeah. I just remember every Halloween you'd see that standee every year, new one every year out of the thing. It was a big deal to get the new Elvira standee out there. Because us as young boys would just sit there and ogle it.
It's just like,
oh, what I wouldn't do to get that in my room.
Right. And then
I think I finally did get one of her standees later on. I think I had the poster for that. See, I never had a problem getting posters, but like getting standees and stuff from the stores were sometimes tough. Because like the beer companies, they wouldn't usually let you have them. They would come back and get them.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why those are so rare and hard to get.
That's why they're very rare, yes.
Yeah,
So sometimes to get that kind of stuff was tough. But once in a while, you'd have like the Pepsi stuff that when they did Star Wars and stuff, I could get my hands on that stuff sometimes. But like when they did the R2-D2 coolers, those things were expensive to buy. And they had a Yoda, like a life-size Yoda. Like I tried getting my hands on one of those. They're going for astronomical prices now, but back then the people that had it at the store, they wanted to charge me like fucking $1,000 for it. I'm just like,
damn. Crazy. Look at this. Rusty had a Halloween.
There you go. You got a hold of one.
Man, he should. I don't know if you kept that or not, but that's probably worth money. But yeah, those boobs had power back in the day.
Yeah, they did.
It truly did. But yeah, if you've never seen A Mistress of the Dark, it is a fun movie. Like I said, it's full of jokes and double entendre. It's the guy that's playing our uncle is actually really good. He gets pretty damn scary near the end when he's like turning into like a devil with the pointed ears and the sharp teeth, and he's like shooting lasers or lightning at her and stuff. It's pretty cool. It's pretty good. You was want to say something, Tom?
No, that was pretty much.
Oh yeah. But yeah, if you've never, and like Arrow does, like we said, does great work. This is, I believe, a 4K scan, which wouldn't surprise me if we get a 4K of this eventually. I'm surprised they didn't release it in 4K, but it is a 4K scan. Looks great. The movie sounds great. A lot of great special features. It's just really fun. It's just like one of those movies that takes you back. Because I remember, like, you guys know me. I loved Monster Vision. I loved Rhonda Shear. I loved watching Elvira's movie Maccabee. I loved watching that stuff. And like to see her in the movie like that, even though the movie was like a flop and whatnot, it's just one of those things where it's like you grew up on it and you just really love it. And much like you, Tom, I believe I saw it on TV first, and then when I got to rent the movie, I was surprised about how many, jokes were in it, stuff was cut out, and all that, and everything. So it's a fun one. It's all good, all the time.
Yeah, Elvira was one of those ones where I've never seen it ever, but I have known about her. Like I've seen her image around forever, pretty much associated with Halloween, especially. So.
Yeah,
even though I haven't seen any film she's in, I've known of her pretty much my whole life. Oddly,
yeah. She's the queen of Halloween. That's what they call her.
Makes sense.
Yes, Yes, we have a $2 super chat from according to Christy.
Hey, Christy.
Hey, good seeing you. It's been a while.
What's
yeah,
up? She's giving us boobs. You know what?
Thank
Just
you.
for that, you want boobs? I got boobs. Where's this at? I mean, not like boobs, but
Resticles.
One of my favorites.
Next on USA, all night.
Closest thing the closest thing we can get to Elvira is Rhonda Shear. She's very much in the same vein. Except she's the more bubbly, like blonde, ditzy blonde character.
You might remain monetized with her, I suppose, right?
Oh no, she's done nudes too. Her and Elvira both have done nudes. So
nice.
My tits are bigger. But yeah, that's probably would have followed up the Hellraisers a little better than Heavyweights.
yeah. I kind of wish I just went to yours and then I probably would have tried to pick a different movie maybe because I'm just like, God, that I can't. Maybe I'd talk about it. I'm in a different mood now after talking about this stuff. So I'm like, nah, I don't know what to say anymore.
What gets me now is we have a small segment of a 4K scan of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, thanks to Elvira, because she shows the movie. It's like her whole stick is like she shows bad B movie horror movies. That's what how she did it. Yeah. And so like in the movie, she shows Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. She shows it at the local theater and hosts it. And like they have a scene in the movie that thanks to this being scanned in 4K, that's like the only scene we sort of have of that movie scanned in 4K. Because I think the Blu-ray I have is I'm not even sure if it's a 2K scan, but yeah, so that's pretty interesting.
Of Killer Tomatoes?
Yeah.
People that aren't aware, I am I'm very well known with being a tomato guy, as far not for eating, but for destroying in stop motion form. And Tom is famous for being the main mustache white one that I have in my things. So, yes.
The killer
That's
tomatoes.
Cool. That's cool.
I said tomatoes. Yeah, they just she shows the movie, and it's not from the actual negative of the Killer Tomatoes movie, but she has a scene of the Killer Tomatoes in her movie that's sort of been scanned in 4K now. So.
The one that's on Blu-ray is a 4K scan of the.
I have to look at my Blu-ray then because I have both of them.
It's an older Blu-ray, but it's a 4K scan.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we don't have a 4K scan of that or 4K.
I'm surprised they haven't yet. Yeah,
I love the first two. I love the first two movies, and I think the second one is such a tonal shift. It fits so perfect. Anyways, but yeah, there you guys. That was my final pick of the night. Tom, do you have one more or?
I do. We brought up the Muppets earlier.
All right.
And now we have the very first Muppet movie on 4K. Speaking of movies when you're kids growing up with, this was the first movie I saw as far as Muppets go. Muppets Take Manhattan. The last Muppet movie to have Jim Henson in it as well. Sony has done a marvelous job giving this movie a much needed update. It looks amazing. I give them excellent props for putting the original poster art on the cover as opposed to this old generic looking Blu-ray.
Yeah.
So I can now chuck that fucker. Because you get the same one in here. It's the same exact Blu-ray. I thought they were supposed to have some new special features. Nothing new. Just a straight movie. Yeah, and because the disc that's the Blu-ray disc is the same as the old disc. But it looks amazing. Looks stunning. The moment you see Kermit pop up the first time on screen, it's more greener than you've ever seen him before. You see the felt. It is miraculous how good this movie looks. They gave it a Dolby Atmos treatment, which I'm not going to complain. It didn't blow me away or anything on that part, but picture-wise, I thought this was amazing. I can't recommend it enough. For some people, you may want to wait till it's on sale because I know it's not everybody's favorite Muppet movie. It's not my favorite Muppet movie either, but I love it. I think it's a great film. Frank Oz actually directed it.
Is this one of the ones before Disney took over?
That's what you get new, I think, on the 4K. I forgot about that. You get a commentary with Frank Oz. I don't think that's on the Blu-ray.
Oh, that's something different.
What year is this movie?
84.
So yeah, this is before Disney took him over.
Way before, yeah.
I don't think I saw this one. I saw one
This
in
is one of the
theaters.
only of the 2 or 3 movies that are out there that Disney doesn't own the rights to, though, as far as Muppet movies.
Thank God.
When did they get
this
the
one
rights
and
to it?
Muppets from Space? I think are the only 2 that they don't own the rights to, and also if you count Follow That Bird, Warner Brothers owns the rights to that.
Oh yeah,
right. What year did they get the rights to the Muppets?
Well, they made a couple Muppet movies with Disney back in the 90s. And then
I think I saw one in the theaters,
right?
Late 90s, early 2000s.
I want to say it was either late 90s or early 2000s.
Yeah. That's what I think. I know I saw one in the theater, whatever one was around then. I was born in 94, so is that one of those?
I think it's been, I don't know how many years it's been since I've seen Muppets Take Manhattan. Yeah,
it's been a while since I had seen it too. I mean, it didn't hold up as well as I remember it, but
didn't hold up as well.
I mean, it's good. I laughed a lot. I was more impressed with just how gorgeous it looked. That was the thing that impressed me more than anything.
Is this the only one in 4K, or wasn't the original movie released?
So far, this is the only one that's released in 4K. Muppet Christmas Carol is in digital 4K.
Man, they need to put that. I would like to buy that one, and I want the original movie on 4K because I remember I really, really loved the original movie. Shoot, I remember loving Follow That Bird.
I basically want the first trilogy in 4K because you have the first 3 movies, which were the main 3 that Jim Henson had anything to do with, and then after that, you had like the ones that just popped up here and there, like the Disney ones and stuff. But no, I would love to have at least Muppet movie, the Muppet Caper all in 4K as well, but Disney probably won't do those.
How many Muppet movies do they have?
Well, it depends on if you count like straight to video or not, because there was a couple of television and video projects they did, but as far as actual legit,
I guess I'd say like movie
movies,
releases, like theater releases.
You have the first 3, which I just mentioned, and then and if you count Follow That Bird, which was a couple, like I think a year or 2 after Muppets Take Manhattan. I think it was 85, if I'm not mistaken. And it's all the same people and all that stuff involved. So they probably literally moved from one production to the other. Then you had a big gap because they started working on other things. Jim was working on like Labyrinth, and then eventually Ninja Turtles and a few other movies. So they didn't really they did a lot of television, like I said, and other projects with Muppet related. But then after Jim died, there was a small gap. And then they did Muppet Christmas Carol first. And that was what, 92, 93? 90, I think it was.
I
think so. And I think it's 92 if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was a little sooner than that. If it was sooner than that, somebody let me know.
It's 92.
Was it 92? Okay.
Yep.
And so that means 94 is when they would have done Muppet Treasure Island. And then they did left Disney because they just had a distribution deal with Disney. They didn't actually own the Muppets yet.
Yeah.
They left Disney and went over to Sony and did Muppets from Space, which was in 97, I believe. And then after that is when Disney bought them. So that would have been early 2000s. And from there I don't think we got another Muppet movie until The Muppets, other than another straight to video TV one with Muppet Wizard of Oz, which only has one good scene.
They've got a good history, like a stretched out history then.
It is and see, that's the thing is the Henson Company always wanted to do more than the Muppets, and that's why Brian finally just said fuck it and sold them to Disney, because his dad's whole thing was to try and have Disney take over the Muppets anyway.
Do they still own the Muppets right now?
Yeah,
Disney does. Yeah.
For some reason, I feel like I'm tripping. Was there like a parody they were kind of doing of like the Muppets but The Office, or is that just like a skit on SNL?
No, that was a stupid fucking show on Disney.
Because that was an actual show, right?
Yep.
Like I swear that was on something, and I was like, "What's this?" And I was like trying to watch it, and I'm like, I mean,
that's where they forgot that Kermit and Miss Piggy were married.
Oh.
Because they just had them break up, and I'm like, wait a minute, they got fucking married at the end of this movie,
right?
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, because that's kind of the joke is like Kermit's like, Piggy, I thought Gonzo was going to play the minister, and she's like, and it's a real minister, so they actually got married.
That's funny. That's a nice little joke right there too. That's funny.
Yeah.
And then they had a second Muppet Disney movie after the Muppets with what was it? Muppets Most Wanted. That thing is fucking horrible.
Oh yeah,
Fucking horrible.
Didn't Jason Segel didn't even come back for that one?
No,
did
he had nothing to do with it. Ricky Gervais is in that one.
Oh boy.
What order would you rank the Muppet movies in that you've seen?
The first three are so fucking good. Like, that's the problem. If you asked me before I rewatched Muppets Take Manhattan, I would have said Muppets Movie, Muppet Caper, and Muppet Take Manhattan are all on the same level. Like, they're just that good.
Mm-hmm.
Muppets Take Manhattan is maybe just a little bit of a slide off, but it's still so damn good and well put together because Frank Oz is a great director.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got a good little story to it. I'm just watching it now. I'm going, God, because I don't think Paul Williams did the music for this one. That one's also different. Like, I think this is the only one he doesn't do the music for as far as the originals. So that part's a little different. The music's good, but just not as good as the first two.
Right.
So that's the part where it really kind of feels like a lesser than movie. But other than that, the story's fine. It's a Muppet movie through and through.
Mm-hmm.
Now, were each ones musicals, or did they?
Oh yeah.
Or am I tripping? Yeah. Okay, those are all like those are considered in the musical category, right?
I'm saying the only one that kind of is, well, even Muppets from Space is kind of a musical, but it's more like they have musical moments.
I think that's the one I saw in theaters. That would have been.
Well, that you probably saw as a kid, I'd imagine.
Like 4 or 5, I think.
That's the one where Gonzo finds out he's an alien.
I think I saw it. I so vaguely remember, but I remember seeing that in the theater and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, Muppets. And
I like it. And I kind of have like a weird thing with like, I like the movie. It's funny. It's one of the funnier of the Muppet movies, but I'm like, I'm not so sure I like the idea of having an answer as to what Gonzo is.
Yeah. For me, I didn't know what the history of any of it was. It was just like, that was the Muppet movie. And then I
just always liked him as a weirdo and we don't know what he is.
I think I've seen maybe one of the other Muppet movies when I was a kid. I don't remember exactly.
And then you got probably Muppet Christmas Carol is probably a fan
Christmas
favorite.
Carol, I think I've definitely seen that one.
That's definitely a fan favorite that people like. And it is one of the better Christmas Carol adaptations. So I kind of put that to the side as like, it's a Muppet movie, but I count it more as a Christmas Carol adaptation than I do a Muppet movie, if that makes sense. Same thing with Muppet Treasure Island. Again, great adaptation. It's a Muppet movie, but it's not like, see, the Muppet movies before the early Muppet movies, the first 3 are basically like the kind of movies Hollywood used to make, but they're Muppets in them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like a love story with Kermit and Miss Piggy. And
yeah, exactly. Like the first movie's a gang getting together, kind of like a road picture. You got the love story element. The second film is they're reporters, so it's a mystery kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Whatever
the third
genre
film's a Broadway musical. It is it's the movie itself is the musical that they're, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it's So those elements to the first 3 films make them feel like pure Muppet movies in that respect. To where when you get to Muppet Treasure Island, Muppet Christmas Carol, Wizard of Oz, they're doing their take on a traditional story. Muppets from Space is an oddball, and it kind of fits with the Muppets in a weird way, because it's like the Muppets are in the real world, not the world of the Muppet movies. Like, because they even break the fourth wall sometimes in these movies.
Yeah.
They don't do that so much in the Muppets and Muppets from Space. Like, those are movies told from like, okay, those other movies, those are things the Muppets do on the side. This is the real life that they live, kind of thing. And they tried to capture that element in that show you were talking about, Rookie, but they completely misinterpreted what the Muppets were all about. And that was one of the reasons Steve Whitmore, the guy who took over Kermit who actually played Kermit almost as long as Jim Henson did, left. One of the main reasons is because Disney just didn't understand the Muppets. It's one of the reasons Frank Oz refuses to work with them. And they treat the Muppets like shit now, which is sad.
Yeah, they don't.
I don't know if they understand what to do with them. I kind of like the way you described it, where they're doing their whatever movie it is, whatever genre that is, but with the Muppets. And so it's got like whatever the plot would be and whatnot, but with the Muppets. And so it's going to be a little more comedic, I assume, by design, by taking whatever premise, Muppeting them.
Yeah, Disney they never really got it. They just like to buy other people's creations and be like,
they really haven't.
Here's the Muppets. You guys like the Muppets. Here you go.
I had no idea.
Buy it.
I thought they were. I thought Disney. Like I thought the Muppets originated with Disney or something.
No.
Nope.
At the time.
That's why the movie, the one with Jason Segel who did the Muppets movie that he did. That's sort of why that one sort of hit, because he was a fan, and I believe he did. I think he wrote that first one. And so like he kind of got
He
the
did,
Muppets.
but they did the same story a few years earlier, which I can't believe more people didn't notice, other than me and a few fans. They did a TV movie for Christmas about the Muppets losing the Muppet Theater.
Oh yeah.
It's almost the same idea. And I'm like, did he just watch that and steal the idea and then just put his own shit into it? Because that's why I didn't really care for the Muppets so much. I'm like, we've seen this story already.
Yeah, and it's sort of like ripping off the first movie too. So
there's elements of the first film as well,
yeah.
yes.
But I mean, that's why I said it. Like, it seems like he was a fan, so he sort of got it. And then when they got to the second one,
it does have some good moments, yes. But
yeah,
his self-insert character and the other new Muppet I didn't care for.
Yeah.
Could there have been like some studio interference that made him change things? Maybe that like
no, that was his passion project.
Yeah, that was, and then like he didn't even bother to come back for the second one because I don't think he even wanted to do a second one. And then Disney was like, "It's Disney, so we're going to make a second one. We made money off that first one." So,
and it makes me want to. I want to dive into Disney's history and see how many like what companies were a part of them, how early on, because I thought that was more of a recent thing that they're doing, like starting with Pixar or something, and then acquiring assets as they go.
No, it was one of the few things that Eisner and Jim Henson had started talks way back in the late 80s about it. In fact, you go back, there was a Muppet ride and some other shit, or not a ride, but a show or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm eating. At Disney. So, like, they had already kind of done some synergy there. And there was always this understanding that that's where Jim wanted them to be. Like that, Brian has said it a few times, and I think Jim always praised just the relationship him and Eisner had and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think that was always kind of part of the plan, but after Jim died...
It sounds like old Disney would have been perfect for them. I mean,
yeah, and I mean...
angle and everything, that's like
oh, yeah.
at the time.
And for a while there, they treated the Muppets really well with just the distribution deal they had. It was once they owned them is that they just were kind of pushed to the side and useless then. I mean, that's when Bob Iger took over.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Disney would have done better if they never acquired any of these franchises and like, but did like partnership or did work with them? Like,
maybe
like
I think the Muppets fits well in the old idea of what Disney is. Like, again, like if you had not changed anything from the 80s through the 90s to now, like if Disney had continued doing what it was doing, the Muppets would be thriving and they would have been right at home. Because they fit just right in that we're still for kids and family, but they're okay to have a little bit of edge to them. But the Muppets never did anything that would go against Disney's core.
Yeah, they
values.
seem at most like they would have maybe a joke that your parent might get that you won't.
Exactly, but it's not going to be anything risque.
It wouldn't be filled with that. It'd be a few here and there, maybe.
They never really have had any too many risque jokes on the Muppets. It was never Jim's thing. He never liked that kind of humor.
And they try to have good musical numbers and good visual things to show. It seems like that was the goal at the time. I'm trying to think of like, even like if Disney is like the main one that we point to for this stuff. But I mean, if like, is it a product of the modern time or is Disney like so its own thing? Like this is what it is anyway. If we took Disney out of the equation with a lot of the stuff, would these companies probably currently be doing similar stuff anyway that they are? I think they'd have different angle.
No, because I think the answer is no, because a lot of Hollywood goes right along with whatever Disney does because they were the big kid on the block for so long. But no, I think you're right. In the classic world, the Muppets would have fit right in with Disney, and I'm thinking at this point they may not be popular with kids anymore, so they may have had to have the Muppets grow up a little bit. But that Office idea was the wrong one.
I mean, kids like Paw Patrol still and other things. I would assume Muppets would still be. I feel like that's kind of a timeless kid enjoyment thing, right? Or were they not international too? Sort of like a international.
I imagine they had some kind of footprint.
Like, I mean, people in other countries would recognize the Muppets. Like, what
I would think so. I mean, we probably have some people in our chat that could tell you otherwise, one or the other, but
right. Or I mean, I guess I'd assume there'd be other.
As far as I know, they were pretty
similar
big
things to the Muppets. Like, here's the foreign Muppets with the tiger and a lizard.
Sesame Street had that. I don't know about how much the Muppets though.
Were they? I guess in my head, I'm also maybe mixing Sesame Street with Muppets.
That's understandable, but there's more of a separation now. Well, there used to be less of a separation, but there's more.
Wait, those
now
were
than
more
there
people
used
in
to be.
costumes usually, right? And then
Well,
different with this.
when Sesame Street started out, Jim Henson Company did all the Muppets for him. So they were legitimate Muppets, and the only
Elmo
Muppet,
and the trash guy and stuff.
all that stuff. Well, Elmo actually didn't come until later.
Oh, okay.
Bert, Ernie, Big Bird, Oscar the Grouch, Grover, Cookie Monster, those were pretty much the main original Muppets that were made for Sesame Street, maybe missing one or two. But I mean, there was like a handful they had right away. And then they started adding more and more and more to them over the years. But Kermit was the only one that was allowed to cross over. Other than in the movies. Now in the movies, they could cross over. That's a different story. But if I remember right, in the Follow That Bird movie, I think, somebody correct me if I'm wrong because it's been years since I've seen it. I think Kermit again is the only Muppet that crosses over in Follow That Bird. Even though all the Sesame Street Muppets make multiple cameos throughout the Muppet movies. So it's kind of one can go one way, but they can't go the other.
I kind of like with I guess the only reference I have is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., sort of, where movies ones can go into the TV show can't go
kind of like that. But like, yeah, it has mainly to do less with licensing and more to do with how Jim Henson wanted a separation between the two. And Television Workshop owned the copyright on all of the characters that Jim created for Sesame Street. So that's the company that actually owns Sesame Street.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So it is technically a separate entity. But yeah, Jim hasn't had anything to do with Sesame Street since the 80s. So go figure.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
They repeated many of his stuff throughout the 90s up through, I'm sure, in the last few years, but now they're really revamping Sesame Street. And 90% of the original actors are dead. So
I gotcha.
Sadly, yeah.
All right, we made it to 3 hours. Whoa.
3 hours again, every night.
Again. Yes,
every night. But yeah, good picks tonight, everybody. Other than the assignment, but
that
thank
was a
you.
disappointment.
Yeah, that was very disappointing.
That's why I had to share it. Oh, you got a member chat thing.
That's from my brother. From I think Kermit's breast smells like bacon.
I'll bet you bring home the bacon.
But thank you guys. Thank you, Rook. Thank you, Tom. Thank you to everybody out in the chat and everybody out there watching. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for always hanging with us every Wednesday night on the Physical Media Show. It is the show and the place to be. But as always, we'll see you guys next week. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
How you doing? Bitches leave.